What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 42. As we kind of hinted at last episode, the meat of this episode, the major portion of it, is going to be dedicated to ranked and our wish list. How would we change ranked? Some ideas that we have for improving ranked, stuff like that. So that's going to be the majority of what we're going to talk about. But in the beginning here, there are some topics, some news items within Siege that I'd like to go over, shortly here. First of all, Rainbow is Magic is live in the game right now. They brought it back as kind of like an April Fool's thing. It's only available for a week. Cosmetic items that are associated with Rainbow's Magic are also in the game for that time as well. Also, we're going to get into the NA League had its first play day. EU League has had now two play days, I want to say. And, they broke record viewership. We're going to talk about that as well as the new Steam charts record. So first of all, Rainbow is Magic just went live today. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I really enjoyed it last time. We all ran around with squeaky voices and could barely speak afterwards, so it's good to I don't know, just have some game modes you can kind of dig around in and have some fun. I think the biggest standout for me in that whole game mode is the way they deal with bullet holes. That they make these little icons.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's a good way to test if it actually helps or if it changes anything. Because, I mean, at least it shows that you're able to make decals on bullet holes without it obstructing the map too much.
True.
But it's also kind of difficult to collect proper testing in a fun mode, right?
Yeah.
But I'm happy that they re-released these game modes so people that didn't play back then or people that were away, whatever it might be, get to try them again.
So just to kind of touch on what you were saying there, what you're saying is that in Rainbow is Magic, when you make a bullet hole, there's a little star decal that comes around the bullet hole. So people have been thinking, how can we address bullet holes and make them less frustrating to play against? You're thinking that maybe with that idea in mind, they could put some type of a decal around bullet holes in the actual game to make them easier to see.
Well, it just shows that it's possible to do that without messing up the whole map.
Right.
Because I guess one of my fears if they did that is that I'll just make 15 decals on the wall and then I'll peek one of them, right? So it doesn't magically make you aware that someone is bullet hole peeking you. It just gives you a little bit more of a clue that it might be happening, but it could just as well have been a stray bullet going through a couple of walls from someone shooting a window open or whatever it might have been. Right. It's good to see that those things are possible, and then a fun little Easter egg in it. All the little platypus and octopi and whatever it is have masks on. All the little teddy bears in Rainbow's Magic.
I really like the game mode. I think that I like you. I enjoyed it the first time it's around. I think personally it should just be a yearly tradition that they bring it back every April Fools, just like this. Yeah. I'm hoping that this isn't taking the place of the arcade mode or the special event that we're supposed to be, that we normally get within a season. Because in my thinking there is that I would love to see them use that arcade mode to introduce something new that we've never seen before.
But didn't they already do that with the Golden Gun? They did reuse Golden Gun an extra time, right?
Yes.
And I think when they did that, we still got another arcade mode. We got what was it? The free for all, the team deathmatch thing, right?
I don't know if that was in the same season or not, to be honest with you. I'd have to look.
Yeah,
I'd have to look.
Enough. I can't remember.
My thing off the top of my head, I would have said that we've had one arcade mode per season and that they reuse Golden Gun or One Shot or whatever it's called for 2 of those seasons. That's what I would have said off the top of my head, but I'm not 100% on that. But I mean, this is a little bit early in the season for the arcade mode or the special event. So my thinking is that we're probably still going to, this isn't altering that schedule at all. That would be what I would guess. But
yeah, I honestly don't, I'm kind of, I don't really pay enough attention to the side events. Like when they're there, they're fun. I play them. And then when they're not there, I don't really realize that they're gone. Right. I do wish we had like a constant arcade thing that every now and then, if you just wanted a break, but you still wanted to play Siege, you could go in and mess around with some of that, right?
That'd be cool.
But I don't know if the I don't know if we're gonna get the same problem that you had in Call of Duty back in the day, where there was so many game modes to choose from that
Yeah.
some of the ones you wanted to queue for, you just had to sit in queue for like 15 minutes. Because
Yeah.
that takes away all the fun, right?
Hold that thought for the rank discussion, because I think
It's a
that
good point.
that plays a role in what I'm going to talk about in the ranked as part of my wish list. But yeah, Rainbow's Magic is live in game right now. It's live for a week. You can play up until April 6th. Get in there, give it a go. If you if you didn't get a chance to get the packs and you were regretting that, then they're there as well. So go for it. Let's go on to NAL.
Yep.
Or Pro League. Have you been keeping up with the EU matches? Because I
Yes.
haven't. Okay, so
I have, and some of
it,
the NAL.
all right. So NAL had its first play day. I think that the biggest thing that I would say after the first play day of NAL is it's really made me sad about how the last year went. That's because this is how NAL was supposed to be all along.
Yeah.
Even maybe greater than that. Maybe like a crowd there. You know what I mean? Like. And the fact that we were robbed of this over the last year and what transpired, not necessarily because of it, but to think about the way the last year went for Rainbow Six Siege as an esport, and to see what we could have had, it made me kind of sad, but also excited for the future. So NAL was played on LAN. It was the production quality was really good. It's still not exactly where it should be because the casters aren't there, and they're so that creates a little bit of a disconnect, I'm sure. But for the most part, it's really high production value. The matches were fun. We had some some crazy back and forth smack talking that was going on. That was kind of interesting. And
But
all
do
in
you want
all,
to quickly?
it was
Do you
awesome.
want to quickly jump in on should we mic them up or not?
Yeah,
Do we have that
absolutely.
talk?
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you say? Mic them up or not?
I say mic them up. But okay.
That could
I say
cost a
mic them up.
career.
Mic them up, but anytime you're playing it, obviously it's going to go through a production process where it wouldn't be live. It would be like you mic them up, so you record it, and then if you find an interesting part, you edit out any cursing or whatever that you want to, and then you play the clip. Okay. If I'm an org, then I am giving my players some training on what is and isn't appropriate to say, because even if they're not mic'd up, you can read lips. And I don't think that there was anything said necessarily that were from where you could read the lips where I was like, where that I had a problem with, but at the same time, you don't know what a certain sponsor is going to feel.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm thinking. Who is accountable when it slips?
Yeah.
That's my only fear. Because sure, you can have like live editing of everything, run it a bit delayed, only let the things go through that like are clean. But what if one slips?
Yeah.
And are we holding the player accountable then? Is it the production? Because you can say whatever you want, but if the teams are just on TeamSpeak or Discord with each other, or just at an event and they're talking to each other, no one is like monitoring or they can say whatever they want, right? Like their comms, no one should really get involved in that. And the smack talk forth and back, as long as it stays banter and it's funny and it's with kinda good intent, right? Like as long as we don't get into personal attacks, then I'm all for it, man. It's funny. But it would be really awkward if it starts like impacting a career.
And it could, and I know that like there's going to be people out there that are like, oh, well, why do you have to tell people not to be idiots? Basically, that's what we're saying here. But here's what you have to understand: a lot of these players are young and they're in the heat of the moment. And if the banter becomes part of the culture, then it's going to escalate. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's one thing to have an outburst now. Hey, I'm using the worst gun in the game, and I whatever Troy said there. That like
Twitch.
Yeah, that's an outburst. You know what I mean? But if it becomes like part of the culture, then it's going to keep escalating, and you never know where that's going to head. So I think overall, yes, let's mic them up. I think that if you're an org owner or manager or whatever, then you would be providing some very clear guidance to your players on what you find as acceptable versus not. And you should probably hold the players accountable for that so that Ubi doesn't have to, so that we never get there.
I guess it could also be a good standard for everyone else to see like what what's what's the limit. Like this is how far you can go, and this is respectable and okay. And further than that, that's not got any place in comp.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it to start looking like Call of Duty console events. I've seen a few of those where they're like punching the table and screaming at each other. I think that looks a little bit too childish if we want to attract sponsors and be taken serious, but it's still esport and it should still have some of that, I don't know, some of that old school LAN vibe. It's fun.
I'd also like to see like banter during the match is great, entertaining, fun. Once that match is over with, though, for me as a viewer, I would like to see the teams kind of turn that switch off, get up, shaking. I know they're not
Oh
now
yeah,
because of
yeah.
COVID and stuff, but I don't like seeing the smack talk after the match. Like after the match, I would like to see them shake hands. Hey, good match. Move on.
It's so
And
hard because it's still
I
so
know,
good. That's the
I
problem.
know,
Like
I know,
I hate
I
it
know.
in MMA, for example. I really dislike the fact that half of the promotion is how much you can shit talk your opponent.
Right.
Um, I I've always had more respect for the people that calmly walked up there, did their job, and then calmly walked away, win or lose. Right? It just seems more sportsman. Um, but it sells so well,
He
and
does.
it's so hard to fault anyone for it because if if you're a player and you wanna brand yourself, that is a really good way of branding yourself.
Yep, for sure.
So it's like honestly regulating it, you're basically limiting their branding potential. But on the other hand, you can't just let loose either because then things get a little too like for example, chat in game should just be off.
For the
And
pros,
yes, and the only
yeah,
reason for that is for when we use clips out of context later down the line.
right.
Like small little chat segments from the games just shouldn't be in highlights or clips or any of that. Or at least I don't know if there would be a way of them like recording it without the text. There probably isn't. Um, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Like let the banner be there in person. That's all fine and dandy. But there is already some rules and regulations with what you can and can't do in terms of banner, right?
Sure.
Like you can't just say whatever you want on Twitter if you're a comp player.
Right.
There are like limits, right?
There's a code of conduct, I guess you
Yeah.
could say that. Yeah. So what about EUL? Is what's been going on over there?
I mean, we don't have draws anymore, so that's that's really good. No, it's way more exciting when you sit down and you know that someone has to win. And then the new system with if you basically get to your overtime, you guarantee 1 point.
That's cool.
Yeah, because it means that even if you're getting steamrolled, if you have a chance of like making it to the overtime and you then still lose, you still kind of cut your losses,
Yeah.
right? So I think it keeps the matches more interesting for longer. It's not like people are getting steamrolled and then they don't want to have that comeback run,
Right.
because they know they couldn't win or they're guaranteed the draw. So I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now. A lot of roster changes. Teams are like still kind of finding their way, right? So it's a little bit too early to dig too much into it, but it's been really enjoyable so far.
What are your thoughts on the esport packs? I mean, obviously up to this point for NAL, there was 100,000 people watching. EU League viewership has been insane as well. You know, a lot of people, I get the sense want to. It's almost cool to say, well, yeah, but it's all because of the packs. What do you say?
I think a lot of the people that are saying it's just because of the packs were the exact same people that asked for drops.
Right.
So it's like I don't know what the hell people want. People go, we want drops, we want an incentive to watch. The reason that the viewer numbers are down is because you don't get anything out of watching. All right, well if you don't enjoy the sport enough to watch it, then meh, right? Well, okay, now you get drops, viewer numbers up. Everyone's like, yeah, viewer numbers up. Ah, but it's only because of a pack. Yeah, of course it is. It's what
Yeah.
you asked for, right? So I don't know, man. Like without a doubt, viewer number increase is directly linked to packs, 100%. No one is denying that. I don't think it's a bad thing as long as you realize that once the packs go away, we're not going to keep that number. The number will drastically drop. It will definitely be higher than what it was just before the packs were introduced because you've pulled new people in that got interested in it. Like, if we just pretend like 80% of the increase of viewers are just there farming them and they aren't even watching, that's still a 20% viewer increase that actually followed the matches, right? That's still good.
Yeah.
So I don't see a downside in it. Like, as long as the cost to have the packs be there is less than the benefit of the viewer number that stays after, then it seems like a good investment.
Sure.
I think duplicates in those packs is kind of shitty. It feels weird that people like grind and get a pack and then the pack's duplicate. But on the other hand, that I don't really care. It's just a cosmetic in a game, and I think it's quite weird getting, like, you and I both know that if we were sitting watching, I don't know, basketball or whatever it is, we're watching it for the game. We're not getting anything in return, right? But with gaming, there's like this idea that, well, now you need a skin in the game because you watched it, or you need this thing or this thing. It just seems a little needy.
Yeah, I think I feel largely the same way. When people say, "Well, yeah, it's because of the packs," it's kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
The only logical downside that I've heard, and I don't agree with this, is that people have made the complaint. Well, here's the problem: the viewership is inflated because of the packs, and now the devs think that everything's perfect, and that's not like. You have a really shitty opinion of the devs if that's how you think. Like
It's also not an understanding of business at all.
Right.
The
Like I
people
don't
that throw the money in to invest to get the viewer number to increase knows exactly why it increased. They have a lot better idea of how many are actually active viewers than we do, right?
Yeah.
Like, by far. And I think if anything, it's going to be the opposite. The more viewers you get, the more feedback you're going to get on how things aren't perfect.
Right. So I'm happy to see it. Like I again, okay. So let's say that, like you said, let's throw it even higher. Let's say that 90% of the people who are there, or 90% of the increase in viewership are people who are legitimately just farming packs. If that's the case, if 10% of those people go from never watching comp Rainbow Six Siege to now being interested in it, that's a win. That's a great like thing. Like if you're a restaurant and you do a 2-for-1 deal or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, and you convert like 10% of your business comes back on another day where it's not 2-for-1 deal, I'd say you're probably pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize. So it's very, very easy if you're content creator. This like rings a bell instantly, right? If you have 1,000 viewers on Twitch, and let's just say you're at top 5, it is very easy to stay top 5 for the rest of the day or for the rest of the broadcast. Because when new people come in and they check the browse list, you're one of them, right? That's one of the ones they click on. That's why it's so hard to grow if you're like, if you have to scroll a page down, you basically not gonna, like, there's no way you get up on that list that day. It's just not happening unless it's through a host or something. The same goes for something like this. Like, if NAL was at 100k viewers, it is going to attract way more new viewers than if not. And some people are not going to know that there are packs or drops, right? They're just like, ooh, what is this? So we might even be pulling interest from people outside of Siege just to give it a try, just to see what is this. The first ever TI I watched, or Dota tournament, was just because it was number 1 on Twitch. I had no interest in it to start with, and I clicked on it because there's a lot of viewer numbers, right? It's the same with whatever that music video that just went out now is called, by Little Nas X or X Nas. Or
you want to see the spectacle.
Yeah, you want to see what everyone else is talking about, right? And what they're watching. So increasing viewer numbers are good no matter what. The only downside that I can see is for sponsor devaluation. So if a lot of people are there but aren't actively engaging or watching, that should at some point start reflecting on ad revenue and sponsorships and it's hard to sell to people that don't watch, right? So
Yeah.
if the PC is just running to collect the packs, then at some point, ad revenue and stuff like that is gonna drop down a bit. But it's a minuscule issue compared to I don't know how far were we down some of the NAL days before?
Oh
8,000,
man, sometimes
9,000?
I mean, yeah, sometimes there were 6, 7,000 watching these matches.
Yeah. And
Um,
in all fairness, it was being sent at a pretty horrendous time
yeah, and there
for the
was
rest of the
yeah,
world, right?
yeah,
EUL was easier to watch for most because it was starting like afternoon in US and in the evening in EU, whereas NAL starts pretty late EU. But EUL went up drastically as well, right? I
yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to like be bothered about or complain about because viewer number increases is a good thing.
Well,
Um,
I think along those lines, we can also talk about like Siege hitting a new record on the Steam charts as well, because there's almost the same like person is arguing against that. And okay, so here's the deal. New record on Steam chart as far as concurrent players, and it happened with the release of Crimson Heist. Now, there was a bug that came with Crimson Heist that kept Siege running in your background even after you closed it. And that is probably why we broke that. We hit that new high. No doubt about it. Like there's no doubt in my mind that if that bug did not exist, we would not have broken the record. With that said, the bug has since been fixed, at least for the majority of people. I'm still hearing some people saying they're affected by it, but the vast majority of people are saying that it's fixed. And the Steam charts are still very positive for the new season. So
can we see the
I,
day that they changed that?
I looked at the day that they changed it, and I think the peak for that day, the new record was 199. I think the peak for the day that they fixed it was in the 140s. So that's still pretty good for a new season. Like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that Siege's the player base is where it was 2 years ago or whatever, but that's not like what I'm talking about here. What I'm saying is like why are there so many people in the community that want to discredit the new viewership numbers in Pro League because of the packs and want to discredit Steam chart numbers because of a bug? You know what I mean? There's truth to both of that. Don't get me wrong, there is. But like I just find it awkward that there are people in the community that don't like to hear good news about Siege basically.
Yeah, but
Is that
I think people are just pissy overall.
I
I
guess.
think that's it. Plus, it's kind of it's the stuff that gets shared, right? If you share new peak numbers, there's gonna be someone going, yeah, but
Yeah.
or if you go, oh, so they hit 7 million players, there's gonna be that one guy on Twitter going, yeah, but half of them are Smurfs, right?
Right.
Like, and some of it is connected to some sort of reality, but it's inflated like an insane amount to get a point across, right? Sure, shit ton of Smurf and Siege. It sucks. Uh, Viewer numbers increase. Yeah, there was a bug. That bug was super annoying. A few PCs had the game running after you closed it, but it wasn't like people had no idea how to turn their game off, right? If they turned their PC off, the plane or it wouldn't count. I also
Correct.
assume that it doesn't like actually look at each individual account that is on at that given second. It's how many accounts are on within that half hour or hour, whatever it might be, right?
I'm not sure.
So sure, maybe Timmy Jeff and his 200 homies would have locked off and that inflated the viewer numbers or the play numbers a little bit. But it's such a petty thing that like I think we should just be happy that there are people playing the game, and that's a good thing because that means that for us who like playing the game's gonna still be there tomorrow and the day after. There's this weird thing in gaming, like this idea of when do you think this thing is gonna die or this game is dead or this. It's such a doomsday thing. Just
Mhm.
play whatever you like, right? And stop worrying too much about if other people are leaving it or if people are joining. If you truly like it, then I don't see why that should be too affected by anyone else. There is a ton of things I'd like to see change in Siege, a ton, but I don't like dedicate my time to go after everyone that enjoys those things, and search them down and be like, yeah, but this is shit. It's it's a weird thing, and it doesn't have any positive impact. Like none of those tweets of oh yeah, but the number is only high because of the bug. Like they don't do anything, right? They're not helping with getting the bug fixed faster. They're definitely not going to bring more people to the game. They're maybe being seen by a couple thousand people, and then they're forgotten 3 days later. And then there's two idiots like you and me sitting here talking about it after. It's I don't know. Viewer numbers and player number increase are good no matter what.
Yeah.
Always. And even if 10% of those viewers were because or players were because of a bug, doesn't matter. It's stable. It's good. And I just checked the chat now. It's not like it just went bloop after the bug got fixed, right? There's still a good amount of players on.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that. There was, however, a few like weird bugs introduced. But I want to give props for that speedy patch on the drone crouch peek thing, the knife peeking, the recoil dip bug thing.
What did they figure out with that? What was it?
I don't know, but it seems worse when you play with your multiplier. Because if I went in and made my multiplier like insanely low, and upped my sensitivity in game and my DPI, it seemed to occur more.
Is it fixed now?
I believe so, because the people that were the most vocal about having the issue all seem to not have it anymore.
That's
so
good news.
I believe it is, but not on console. But I assume it's a math error somewhere, right? Like it's if the multiplier seems to make it worse, it's probably somewhere down the chain of code, or who knows.
It's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, same. And it honestly, again, that like doesn't matter, right? It got fixed within, I think, a week,
something like that. Yeah.
And normally I wouldn't be clapping my little chubby hands and going, "Woo, good job!" But with how long some of the things have taken to get fixed, a week is good, right? Like for I think it was like 4 pretty big bugs. Then sure, we can have the naysayer Twitter used to saying, yeah, but they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Sure, but like you can't change that, right? Like they were there, they got fixed.
Yeah,
and I'm happy that happened. I think it's good they introduced the little audio bug hunt thing, because there's like an incentive now for people to actually, like, one thing is going, that should have been a headshot, and then you watch it back in slow-mo and you're like, maybe it wasn't, right? Or going, oh, the audio is messed up, and then you listen back to it and maybe it wasn't, or maybe the audio was messed up but you can't reproduce it. That would suck. So now there's like an incentive for people to try and figure out if they can cause it on purpose.
I'll have to look into that, because I can replicate the, and maybe we've talked about this before, the Amaru silent breach through barricaded windows. I think it has to do with the glass. I'm not sure. I'll have to mess with it more. But sometimes when you're Amaru, you can go through a window and it's not silent. Like you still hear the zip line sound and stuff like that. But as far as like the barricade noise, it's not there. Like the explosion of the barricade, or like the sound of the barricade breaking, it just like gets deleted sometimes. And I'm not sure. I've had it happen to me a couple times in game. So
and you can get the Raptor charm if you can figure out how to do it consistently.
Okay.
And I think they put out a post about it on Twitter. Basically, if you can help give them ways to replicate it, and you can help in like fixing one of those issues, there's a chance to get a Raptor charm from one of the
I'll look into that, because I'd like to have that thing. You want to move on to rank now? You good with anything else that you want to
get into? I'm good. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So ranked. You know, the idea, we both spent the last 2 weeks kind of brainstorming, thinking about how we would change ranked. You know, how ranked could be improved. And I think, okay, I think that maybe the best way to start would be, what is your goal for ranked? Because I'm guessing that mine's going to be different than yours. I don't know, but should we start there? Like, if you're designing a rank system, or if you're tweaking the rank system, what's your end goal?
Well, if I let's let me put it like this then. If I press Q for ranked in any type of game, my goal for that is to go in there and try to do my best, and then hopefully meet people slightly worse, around the same skill, and slightly better than me. So I can slowly climb, and as I learn and improve at the game, I will keep like being matched against people that are around the same. I of course want an incentive to try and improve, because if we're just playing for the sake of repeating the same thing over and over again, and not having any kind of change or improvement, or difficulty for that matter, I would play the more casual game mode that there was to offer. It's it's about the win or the loss having some sort of value at the end of the day, right? Like there has to be a change of currency, whether it's elo or whatever it might be. And ideally, in a 5v5 search and destroy team game thing, I would want to play it with friends and see how far we can get. Friends, teammates, call them whatever you want, right? But people that were we can have different roles. Some people, for example, in Siege would be anchors, some would be entry fraggers, or, and build and improve on that. Because if it's purely solo queue, it's very hard to like learn the game proper, because I can go and do entry stuff, but who says that the random people that I'm going to be playing with are going to see the game the same way? Or maybe I queue with 4 people that all want to entry frag as well. And now at least some of us have to compromise. And it normally ends up being, you know, the nice people that end up taking the roles that they didn't want to have. And then you just have a mix of people not having as much fun as they otherwise would have. So that's the goal for me. I think if you then spread it out on like a wide range, you don't want little Timmy and his 4 friends who maybe have half an hour to play a day, and they just meet at, you know, 7 at night every time after dinner, and then they play 1 or 2 matches. You don't want them not being able to have the time to play a match. But you also don't want to balance everything around them. And on the other hand, you can't look at the absolute freaks like me who play for 8 or 9 hours of ranked a day and say, oh yeah, this is what we should balance everything for, because there's very little of both, right? So it has to be like scaled for most of the audience. I think some of the changes they did now hurt that way more than it helps, especially in the higher elo, and I don't know if higher elo, let's say from plat 3 and up. And I don't even think, I think like plat 3 to diamond is sure, it's maybe the higher bracket of what's there, but I think there is so many increments from like plat 1 and to the best champ players. You could fit a whole dozen of ranks in there as well. One of the issues right now with rank when you play is that it's very hard to tell from watching a player where they should be. Like if I just give you 10 random rounds of players, you could probably not guess correctly what rank they're in, right? Like I definitely can't. Not even close.
Yeah.
And I can in CS.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Do you think the fact that there's so many different ways to win in Siege plays a role in that?
Yes and no, because you don't really have more win conditions than you do in other games. There's more things that could go wrong, sure. But like CS is as simple as it gets, right? Like pretty much same rules. You can't break the map. and that's about it. But you're not gonna find 5 not very skilled players beat 5 very skilled players unless they have something that the skilled players didn't. They need to have like some impressive strat or teamwork or something to be able to compensate for the lack of sheer mechanical skill that the other team has, right? Maybe they're more patient, disciplined, whatever it might be. But that will show if you actually watch the game from a top down view. If we're assuming that both teams are 5v5, right?
Yeah.
Or a 5-stack. But if I take 5 solo plat 3s versus 5 solo champs, there is no way that the plat 3s win. And if there is, there's something wrong with the way the system works. Because ideally, when you have people at like the highest elo and people, let's say 4 or 5 ranks below, we should be able to, you know, that like certainty rating you have in Siege, right?
Right.
Through true skill, that should be able to very, very correctly predict who's going to win. So the champ should probably win 98 out of 100 games, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the certainty rating is there. Then if we play 100 games and those 2 teams against each other, we should be able to pretty correctly predict that the plat team would win 2 of those 100 games. If that is true, and that's one of the problems when we speculate about this, is that we don't really know. We just have like the emotions and feelings of what it's like to play.
Sure.
But if that prediction ends up being right and they actually win 2 out of 100 games, then the ranking system's actually kind of works, but it still doesn't feel fun.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess back to the goal of ranked for me. So I agree with your goal from a player's perspective. That as a player, whenever I click on ranked, what I want is a balanced match that has integrity. So that means that I'm playing against people of similar skill to me. That's what I want. But from if I was making a game and I was making a rank system for that game, my goal would be to increase player retention. That would be my goal for ranked. And I think that you can say, well, if you give players a ranked system that gives them fair matches, you will increase player retention. And I think that is true for the most part. But not in every aspect. There are some elements of the current rank system that I think decreases player retention or play time and encourages smurfing to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I wanted to make that distinction, because I think it's important. Like, I think that there is that group of players out there who, and I'm one of them, dude. Like, it's okay. Well, it's the first week of the season. I'm not playing ranked, or I'm playing ranked on my alt. Oh, I hit diamond. That means I'm playing the rest of the season on alt. Oh, I'm not with my 5-stack. I'm not playing Siege because I don't have a 5-stack. Oh, I lost 2 games in a row. I'm getting off a Siege for the night because, I can tell it's just not a good night, so I'm getting off a Siege. So when you look at all of that, I think that a lot of what I'm going to talk about when it comes to ranked has a piece of that is with that in mind. That I want a rank system that not only can give me a fair and balanced match, but encourages a person to play the game more and not less. And I think the current rank system creates a lot of ranked anxiety for people.
Yes, but players create more ranked anxiety for other players than anything.
Yes,
I 100% agree that the ranking system is flawed in a way where it promotes doing that, right? So like, same reason I despise third-party overlays. I think they ruin way more than they help. They're often a bad start to a game. You have little Timmy going, oh, we only have 22% chance to win. Pipe down.
So I cancel.
Yeah. Right? Canceling. It should not be in like a ranked game mode should not have a cancel feature. It should just not.
You know how far that I know that, like, we're gonna get off track a little bit. It's about ranked systems, so it's all good. But I saw somebody the other day. This is how far the cancel has gone. They said the reason the cancel was introduced is to avoid playing against cheaters, and now people are just using it to avoid legit matches.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The reason it was introduced is so that you could cancel if one of your players disconnected in the first round, or
Yes.
in the. That's why
Yes.
it was introduced.
So the intent is good. I like. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong. I'm not against the idea of a cancel system, but I have not seen good faith in players where the cancel system should be allowed to stay. I think it has
I
been
think
used to a level where any reasonable person would look at it and agree and go, yeah, maybe it's not being used for its intended purpose 90% of the time.
you know what I think is a similar comparison is the vote to kick system. Good
Yeah,
intentions, but it was 90% of the time it was used by a 4-stack to kick out the random person that joined mid game, and it was used for toxicity.
that's what was good when we like community servers when community servers were run by players and you had your own little communities and everyone would meet on server 52 after school and you knew everyone that was on there. Systems like that worked because if someone came into that group and they acted out and the group that was all happy and had fun didn't want this person in, they could remove them. That worked, right? But in something like Siege, where it's like one big game server and you're just thrown in with random people, if you have 4 friends that all of a sudden don't agree with the one random, that one random might be the one on the right. He might be the good guy, right? Doesn't mean the 4 people can't just vote him out. And like that's just it's a good intention but a shitty solution. And it's the same with cancel. If you truly DC and your PC crashed and you just can't get back on, that sucks. If you then choose to queue again without fixing the problem, that is on you. Now I know people are going to say, yeah, but there was a bug in the game, and I don't care. If it's the game's fault or your PC or your internet provider, it doesn't matter. The second you know that that bug is there or you have the issue, you have to not queue for ranked. You should be responsible enough that you don't decide to force that chance on anyone else than you, or at least queue as a stack, right? Queue with your friends, and then if it happens, well, then they know it's possible. We've had plenty of games this season where 2 of the people I play with, Flynn and Silchi, had some issues with their internet where their internet would just die, and they'd be missing for a round or 2. Or one day, one of them didn't even come back online the same day. We didn't cancel that game. We play it out because it's not fair for the 5 other people that waited 5 minutes to get a game that one of our guys DC. It's not definitely not their fault, right? But we can choose to do that if we're 4 people or 5 people stacking and then losing one. But if I'm alone and it's one of the 5 that go missing, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I don't want to lose, right? It has nothing to do with playing 4v5 and the fact that that isn't fun. You could probably do pretty well, to be honest, in a 4v5 in Siege, because most of the time you can get a free pick if you're 4v5, because they're gonna stick their head in every window, right, and be a little bit too cocky. And sure, you're probably gonna lose the game, but you're really canceling not to lose the points. That's why it's not really because it's not fun to play 4v5. And why not give that 5th guy a chance to come back? What happened to like the integrity of wanting to play the game that you signed up for, right? And then it's being used to dodge cheaters, to dodge people that are better than you, to dodge teams that have tags, teams that you lost against last night, whatever it might be. And that in turn encourages smurfing, because then you have your second account that you just jump on whenever the other one gets sanctioned. And there doesn't seem to be a limit to how much you can abuse this shit.
No.
I think, like in my ideal ranked world, cancel would not exist. There would be a surrender, and you could go out and surrender with pride and be like, you know what, these guys are just better, and it will literally just say GG. It's like in StarCraft, if you write GG, that is a surrender, a forfeit of the match. The other guy takes the win, but you don't have to waste the next half hour getting smashed, right? Then make it some sort of change where if you're 4 people instead of 5 and you surrender, it's at a 75% elo cost instead of 100. And take the extra elo from the guy who went missing. Because you also have to punish the guys who just LD 4 out of games because they can't take the fact that they got downed or spawn peaked or whatever it might be. That happens more. At least, okay, this is where the bias comes in, because we have to be transparent about that as well. I'm talking about PC. I don't know about console. I don't know how it is there, so I'm not going to speak on behalf of that. And I'm talking about plat and above. That's my experience. In Diamond Elo, it happens very often. Someone gets downed or whatever it might be, and they just out the 4. And it's 50-50 if they're coming back. They just cannot take the fact that they lost that round or lost the clutch or whatever it might be, and they just disappear.
Yeah.
And it's not a crash, right? It just isn't. It's way too convenient. And it's often the same people. You'll see, like, over a season, you start noticing the same people just disappear after they get downed, or when you meet them in a ranked game, they don't want to play and then they're gone. Or you ban an operator they don't like to have banned, right? But if they can keep doing that and there's no escalation of sanction, like, just make it so if the match is cancelled, instead of the account getting a 30-minute sanction, just give the PC a 30-minute sanction. If you really want to keep canceling, don't allow them to go in and make do the same shit to another stack of people.
Right.
We had on one day, we had the same team cancel against us 3 times, where the random, or the guy who left from that team was the same person, but on 3 different accounts.
Ugh.
In one day.
Yeah.
It makes it hard to want to queue the next game, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, okay. With your goals in mind, you mentioned cancel. It sounds like you want to get rid of cancel. I don't really disagree with that. But I guess what are some other things that you would change about the current rank system?
Well, there's 23 ranks, right? And
from the bottom of copper up to champ is 23 separations of rank. Okay.
I don't so I think the fact that we look at ranks as something to be like the goal is to achieve the next one is flawed, but that's a player behavior issue,
right?
Because it's okay to play something, it's okay to play soccer in the old boys club and not have the goal of becoming a professional. It's okay to play ranked and not want to be a pro league player, and not want to be a champion or plat or gold, whatever it might be. That's okay, and it should be enjoyable and good for you in silver, in copper, in gold, whatever it might be. So if the only goal ever is to this step ladder of getting further in ranked, then the system failed in my opinion. So there needs to be incentive to play, even if you stay around the same rank. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do there. But I think one thing that hurts a lot of people is knowing and seeing the elo they have and the change. Instead of worrying about the actual game that they played, they're worrying about what comes right after it, the change in currency. And I'm gonna compare a lot to CS because it's the only thing I've played even remotely as much when it comes to rank and World of Warcraft Arena. So in World of Warcraft Arena, at least when I played it, initially there was no upper and lower cap for what you could gain. So if you got really far ahead, we had a rank 3 arena team. If we won a game, we would get 1 point. If we won against number 4 or 5, right? They're still some of the best in that server, but we would get one maybe 2 points. If we lost, we would lose 28 or 30 points. So that was horrendous, right? You're losing against a team that is 1 step below you, and you lose that amount of points. That just means you don't want to play. It was more worth it for us to not play for a week and wait for them to get closer to us so we could get more points by playing. Because otherwise we would just swap places. Because we had to win 30 games to gain 1 point, and they just had to win 1 to put us at 0. So that was a bad system and got reworked, right? In CS, I never knew. I just played and I worried about each and every single match we played, I wanted to win every single one of them because all of a sudden my rank just changed and it felt so good. And it was the same in Siege to start with. I had no idea when I went from Plat 1 to Diamond. Or actually, back then it was Plat 1, 2, and 3, and then Diamond. That whole system got changed around where it's now 3, 2, 1, and then Diamond.
Yeah.
But you didn't know when you were going to rank up in year 1 of Siege. You didn't know what elo you had. You had no idea. There's no leaderboard or anything, right? It felt way more like you cared about the match you played instead of, at the end of the day, today at least, me and the people I generally play with, we don't really think about if the games we had were good. We think about, did we get 5 more elo or 5 less elo than when we started the day? And what a waste. Like, it's fine if there's a few people out there where that is the intent. Your goal is just to see how far you can get. That's completely fine. But out of everyone that plays ranked, there's so few people that can afford to look at that and have that be the goal, right? To get 10 more elo today than they got yesterday. It should be about like the 2 hours, 3, 4, 5 hours you played and you had good games. And I guess that goes into the idea of like the game's too short. They're just too short. There was a Twitter post, I can't remember from who, yesterday, saying that if you lose two rounds in ranked, it's almost impossible to come back. I don't know if that's like statistically true or not, but it sounds pretty reasonable.
If you lose 2 defense, if you start on defense and you go down 0-2, I would agree with that statement.
It's pretty difficult to come back. Except for when you get to high elo and you always go 3-0 and then they magically get really good. But it only ever happens with the low level accounts. That's not so much the ranking issue as the entry cheat issue, but the games are too short. They don't allow for you to try the stuff that you want to try to improve. So it feels like you're forced into this circle of doing the same stuff over and over and over again and do the tried and true strats and basically play it as safe as possible because you have so little in each map, right? Like at the very minimum, rank should be the same as Pro League in terms of rounds. If we want to have people remember the games they played. The only reason I'll remember a game for a day is if I either played really well or played really bad. And the really well one is because I clicked that little key to clip stuff a little bit more for the YouTube, and the really bad is because everyone was laughing. Otherwise, there's no way that I'm going to remember half of the games I played. Now, maybe I'm just old, but they just don't stand out. I truly think that sucks. I want rank to be about the individual game, the beating the other team, and not about accumulating internet points.
So, what round would you go to? Are you saying 1st to 7? Basically doubling the round count right now?
Copy EU, and then say that if you make it overtime, you get an increase, or you get some sort of elo anyway. I don't know if it's even possible. Like first off, we probably have to completely remove the entire way that elo calculation is done right now for any of this to even remotely work. I don't know if you could just input this into like a true skill system,
right,
and then it would work. Just before we started doing this, I was watching some YouTuber talking about he kept calling it elo, and then he described the whole history of like the guy who did the chess thing and the manually recording wins and losses and everything, and saying how that didn't work for Siege. But Siege isn't using elo, using true skill and matchmaker rating, right? We just call it elo because it's
right.
simpler. Yeah. So that whole rant wasn't really warranted to say that it doesn't work for that. Like after 50 games, if you play legit and you're playing on the same account that you did last season and you do your best, and everyone you're facing are doing the same and you aren't meeting smurfs and all that, it should be fairly accurate at putting you against people that are kind of the same skill level. The problem is you don't meet people that are all only playing on their main accounts, right? Like,
well, okay. So let me get into something on my agenda right now, because I think a problem with that, with what you just said right there, playing 50 games, the system should be pretty good at putting you where you belong. I think one of the bigger problems we have in Siege right now, there's so many variables of what can take place in those 50 games.
sure.
Did you play those 50 games in a 5-stack? Did you solo queue those 50 games? That is a completely different path that you're going down. Now, granted, I'm somebody who has a solo queue account and a 5-stack account that I play on every single season. And for the most part, those ranks are pretty similar between Plat 3 and Plat 1. Okay, that's where I'll end up on both of those accounts. It's not like my 5-stack account is Diamond and my solo queue account is Silver. But what I'm saying there is there's that's a huge variable that you're going to throw in. So I'm going to throw a bomb out there right now. And this is something that I've resisted for an extremely long period of time, and I'll explain why in just a second. I think we need a solo queue playlist. That's the direction I would go. I would not do a 5-stack playlist. I would do a solo queue playlist. And point number one is, I go back to what I said before, player retention. So now, if you're that guy who says, well, I don't have my 5-stack tonight, so it looks like I'm playing Warzone, maybe you say, well, I don't have my 5-stack tonight, so I'm going to do the solo queue playlist. That would be that's the biggest selling point that I would give in this pitch. Number two, you're removing in that solo queue playlist, where you end up after those 50 games. There's still some variables there. Maybe you played against Smurfs, blah, 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 whatever. You're never going to get anything perfect, but you're removing that huge variable of, did I get carried by 4 really good teammates in those 50 games, and now I'm at a rank I don't deserve. Okay, so after those 50 games in that solo queue playlist, I would think that we'll call it the tolerance or the margin of error of where you end up after those 50 games, in my opinion, would be much more accurate for the average person that would be in the normal ranked playlist we have right now. Okay, the other thing that would do is, and you could see this as a potential downside. Now, if you're a 4-stack, you can't queue. Like, there's nowhere for you to go. If you are a 4-stack in Siege, somebody's got to leave, or you got to find one more. So that's a potential downside. Unless you can go to unranked. That is, but there's nowhere to play ranked. But the other side of that too is that you're not going to get that one random. If you're a 3 or a 4-stack, you're not going to get that one random who just tried ranked for the day, disconnects after the first round, and never comes back. You know what I mean? I just feel like there would be a lot of indirect benefits to a solo queue playlist. And also, maybe, one of the bigger problems in ranked that the no rank system is going to fix necessarily is the smurfing problem. Maybe this would help with that regard. Because, like you said, instead of, getting on a different account or whatever, I can get 2 ranks, a 5-stack playlist and a solo queue playlist, or not a 5-stack playlist, normal ranked and solo queue rank. I can get both ranks. That that would dissuade me from needing to get on an alt account to play with a different group of friends or whatever.
But you would, so in your, because you're saying a solo queue playlist, but what you really mean is a solo queue and a 5 queue.
I would say a solo queue. You have ranked right now, and I'm not saying nothing would change. We're going to talk about a lot of changes in this video, but I'm saying that you have your normal ranked playlist, and then you have a solo queue playlist.
Why not force the normal rank playlist to be 5-stack then? Because otherwise you still have the problem of, if you're 4-man, you still get the one random.
No, because you would be, if you hit the ranked button when you're solo, you go into the solo queue playlist. It would be impossible to queue.
But what if I'm 4?
Then you wouldn't be able to play ranked.
What is the other ranks? How do I queue for the other rank playlist then?
What do you mean?
Do you only want solo queue in rank and nothing else?
No. There'd be two ranked playlists: a solo queue playlist and then normal ranked. If you are a 3-stack and you hit the ranked button, you're going to go into the normal ranked. Or maybe you separate them and you have to hit a different button. If you're in a 3-stack, the solo queue ranked playlist is grayed out. You can't hit it.
No. There's a problem here. You're forgetting. If I then queue for the normal rank, as you call it, that is like now, but I'm alone,
You wouldn't be able to.
then
It
how
would be
do
grayed
I?
out.
Then how do you queue as a 4-stack?
You wouldn't. You can't.
So okay, so you can't queue in the normal rank as a 4-stack.
Correct. And
What is
that's
what is
not
a
that's not a
3-stack?
new problem. That problem exists in Dota already.
What is a 3-stack?
A 3-stack would be able to queue,
So
and then
then
it would have to.
it's not normal rank. Then it's squad rank, and
Yes.
it's solo. Yeah, but it's very important because of like you forget the 4 queue all of a sudden. So
Well,
now
I don't
you can
forget it. It's an unintended consequence that
no,
as a
but
4-stack there would be no place for you anymore.
yeah, but I have to like understand that one because you said you had normal ranked, which is not how it is now, right? So it's still
Right.
vastly
Yes.
different
Okay.
than what it
Okay.
is now.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's non-existent 4 stacking anymore. You can 5-stack.
Yep.
You can 3-man, and you can duo.
Yep.
Fair enough. Why not just make it a 5-stack where you have the team rank?
So okay, what if you're a 3-stack now?
Then you can queue, or you can queue in the normal one, and then have a random one where it's just the like we can both agree Siege is more fun as a stack.
In some ways, I mean, I enjoy solo queuing to a certain degree. Like,
Yes, but not enough that you don't want to change it to everyone else has to be solo queue as well.
Well, the frustrating part about solo queuing is playing against a 5-stack. I don't think that's a fair match.
I think those. Okay, so there we definitely disagree. For me, the frustrating part about solo queue is the exact opposite. If I play against a 5-stack solo queue, that is way easier for me to handle because what they do makes sense. It is
all right.
so much.
I see that aspect of it, but surely you have to agree that a coordinated 5-stack has an advantage over 5 randoms.
100%. But you and I very rarely meet coordinated 5-stacks. Very, very rarely. Most of the time, they're complacent. They take massive risks. They do dumb shit. They don't really play sweaty or truly like wait and cover flanks. And
no, but there's still hey, will you drone me in? You know what I mean? Just having a duo, I think, makes this game infinitely easier.
No, I don't disagree at all. But what people really complain about when they solo queue is their teammates. It's not the enemy team, because we could fix that instantly by just making a 5-stack queue. Then you wouldn't have a problem with being 3-man or 2-man or solo or whatever.
Saying, yeah, right? I gotcha. Here's
things to solve, right? Like you want your rank to not be carried and boosted, but if you're playing in a 5-stack and all the other 4 are better than you always know, and it's okay if you still fit into that stack and that stack can get to that elo, then you might not deserve the rank by yourself, but you still got there with a team. That's okay.
Here's why I lean towards the solo queue playlist, because I get what you're saying now. A solo queue playlist is accessible to every single person who has ever played Rainbow Six Siege. It does not rely on you to make friends. It does not rely on you to be nice to people, I guess you could say. I mean, but like every single person that turns on their PlayStation, their Xbox, or their PC has the option to jump into that game mode. Yeah. That's why I think a solo queue playlist, I lean that way.
I think you misunderstood me. I'm for the solo queue. Like I want the solo queue, but I also want a 5-stack queue.
See, I think that's so. Would there be 3 different rank queues then? Is that what you're saying?
5-stack and solo.
So done. So what if you're a 3-stack? You can't play ranked or a duo.
Yeah, you can. You just play ranked as 3 individual people. If solo queue is actually not a shitty experience, people wouldn't be against having to play solo queue until they had a 5-stack ready. Then you can say, well, some people only have 1 friend, or some people only have 3 friends. Sure, but then I probably don't want to be forced to have to play with them.
See, I think if there's a solo queue playlist, the other ranked playlist pretty much does turn into the 5-stack playlist. Okay?
Maybe, but
not 100%. Not 100%. But it would definitely, if you remove all the singles from the equation and all the fours, then I think that you're left with a lot of fives.
But so from my experience, whenever people complain about solo queue, because that happens a lot, I don't mind solo queuing at all. And when I jump into solo queue, I expect that I can expect nothing from any of the 4 people on my team. And I assume the other team is going to be 5 stack. Those two are both false 90% of the time. Most of the time, my 4 teammates actually a little bit better than I'd think. They truly try. They want to win just as much as me. They probably think I'm the bad one. I think they're the bad one. And then we both go to our respectable friends and we say, oh my god, I just played solo queue. My teammates were shit. They said the same about me. I said the same about them, right? Because there are more people out there that are saying that all the teammates they get are bad. Like, at some point, you're going to have to be that bad teammate. Sure. And you probably are every single time you're in the stack to some of the ones that are there. Maybe you're the one, because we all know that we've seen one of our solo queue teammates get 10 kills and we were like, yeah, but he only got them because he was baiting, right? And we've all had 10 kills in solos and then been like, yeah, but I got all the kills and the other ones didn't do anything. Like, maybe the big issue is that we're all so egotistical that we think we're the good ones. And that is not going to get fixed by having a solo queue playlist at all. Like, that will change nothing. We will just be against 5 other uncoordinated people that also don't like each other.
Right. No doubt that you're always going to complain about your teammates. Yes. 100%. 100%.
So I'm all for solo queue, but I don't think it will solve anything.
Well, here's what it could solve. It's not gonna solve. Nobody's ever complaining about that. But let's say I'm a Rainbow Six Siege player and I play in a 5 stack and I get carried by that 5 stack to Plat 2. Mm-hmm. And then I solo queue. I have no business being in Plat 2. So now my teammates, I'm solo queuing and I'm with teammates that deserve to be in Plat 2. And they look at me and are like, how in the hell did you make it to Plat 2? Well, they don't realize this, but I got carried there by my 5 stack. So if I was solo queuing in this playlist the entire time, ideally, unless you get really lucky with your random teammates, which could happen, you're going to end up at the rank that you deserve to be at. That variable of getting carried to a rank would be removed. So,
but what's
yes,
the point?
You're still going to complain about your teammates.
You still have 2 rank systems, so you could still get carried to that rank.
But not if you're in the solo queue playlist.
No. So
if you're in the solo queue playlist, then the only people in there would be.
Yeah, you have a separate rank for solo queue. Sure.
Yeah.
So it just incentivizes individual performance and do everything you can in solo.
Well, that's a good question.
That is how you win more games. In solo queue rank, you win more games by trying to outperform your team than you do by trying to help them. Unfortunate, but that is just the case. Anyone that has ever solo queued to Diamond will know that if you just focus on fragging, you will get to Diamond easier than if you try to be a teammate. Because you cannot rely on them doing the same. You just can't. Even when you get to Diamond, it is a shit show in terms of playing a solo queue game there. Because the chance on defense that 3 of you are going to try to spawn peek just to try and get an early advantage. The second you get that, you're going to try to get a little bit more of an advantage. So when you die, you can go make coffee and not be on cams. Right? So everyone's trying to have a massive impact on the round as fast as possible. It is not great for good siege at all. And sure, maybe the rank you have is what you're worth, but the way you play does not belong in that rank. So once you get from that solo playstyle into a team in the same elo, all of a sudden you're no different than the guy who played in that team and still managed to not hold the team down enough that they couldn't get there with you. So let's say I'm a full bot and I have 4 teammates and we managed to get to Diamond. I at least didn't weigh them down so much that they couldn't get to Diamond, right?
Right.
Maybe I can't shoot straight, but I can at least, say, oh, there's one long, and then they can shoot him. But if I play solo queue all the way up and I just do really dumb stuff and I get all the spawn peaks and then I die and then nothing happens, I get my 1-for-1. If I then replace that same person in that team might perform worse. So we can't say this whole thing with there's a scenario for both. I agree, some people are truly carried up there, but do we care?
Well, okay. Are you saying that your solo queue rank would have any bearing on where your other rank was? Because my idea would be no. That they would be two completely different ranks. So you could be copper
No.
in solo
But
queue and platinum in the normal ranked queue.
no, no. Like they're completely separate, 100%. They have to be
Okay.
because you couldn't link them. There's no way to do that.
So what
Because
you're
then boosting
saying
would
what
still
you're
work.
saying is that in solo queue
I'm
it
saying you
would
take the
reward a
value.
different play style than what.
Yes.
Okay,
You
I'm okay with
separate
that.
the value.
I'm okay with that.
So
That's game design, man. Like you know what I mean? Like I agree with you. I know what you're saying. I agree with you, and it's not the way that I necessarily want to play Siege. You know what I mean? But listen, if in the solo queue playlist, if the meta and the best way to win is to be aggressive, I mean that is what it is.
It creates people that you don't want to play with in the group queue. That's the problem.
I mean, you queue with them, and if they're asses, you don't play with them again. Like
No,
that's no different than
no.
now.
But if you start making a system that encourages that, you're responsible for having more of it. Right?
Well, I don't know, man. Like, because right
it's different
now,
if it's Valorant or if it's CS. Like it's
I
so
agree.
different.
I agree. And let me explain what I view as the difference there. In Valorant, it's more about gun skill, in my opinion. At the end of the day, there is flashes, there's smokes and stuff, but really Valorant is about shooting people in the face.
Yeah.
And Siege one reinforced wall can mean that you shut down an entire push. You know what I mean? Like
one good bandit trick, right?
Exactly.
The problem is that, like, if we compare take CS, you're good with gun skill, then you go in and you practice your smokes. Or you practice all your smoke lineups. But if you get slammed every gunfight, no one's gonna be impressed that you can throw your smoke straight. Right? But in Siege, you can like legitimately choose to take less gunfights and still be a massive benefit to the team. Right? Like you could play in a team with, let's say, 4 diamonds and 1 gold, and if you spend some energy on like getting him to do the right things and give call outs in certain camps or whatever it might be, you could still do well against a team of 5 of similar skill as the opponent, right? And in my opinion, that's what makes Siege special and why I enjoy playing it. If we start encouraging more of the playstyle that we all complain about meeting, everyone is complaining about the Ashe that rushes into site and shoots everyone. That's exactly what you're asking for if we get solo playlist. And I'm going to be playing the shit out of that solo playlist because it's going to be so good in terms of like practicing mechanical skill and stuff. But that has to be the one rank that then matters, because right now, if I 5-stack and play get my diamond and I solo queue and can keep my diamond while solo queue, then I feel happy that I'm able to keep that, right? So I'm not carried there. My KD stays the same. If my win-loss stays kind of the same, then I'm probably not a detriment to the team. If I get diamond and then I go solo queue and I get bounced down to silver, I'm probably pretty boosted, right? Or carried. But if I have 2 different or separate ranks now, and I have my solo queue rank, which let's say that becomes plat 1, and I get my 5-stack rank, and that is either lower or higher. First off, we need 2 completely separate rank brackets, completely separate, that have nothing to do with each other, and they can't even resemble each other remotely because it's 2 different games all of a sudden. Because one, you're forced to have 5 people that don't necessarily communicate, that all have to play for individual performance before anything else, because you're the only consistent factor in your games there. And you have to play with at least if you want to get as far as possible, right? If you want to get as high up, you have to play to make the biggest impact in the round as fast as possible. So there's room for your 4 teammates that you assume are worse than you to make mistakes. Because that's, at least in my experience, is what everyone always say, is that they're always the best when they solo queue. I don't know how it adds up or makes sense. But it's the feedback from
like
everyone.
People don't solo queue now. Like it's not like this doesn't exist in the game already.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like,
but now they just blame the 5-stack for them losing. every time. Like it's always that they're against the 5-stack, which they aren't as often as they think. With the new overlays,
no,
right?
and honestly, I believe there are measures in place to try to balance that out. Whether they do or not is a completely different question. But there is some MMR boosting that goes on behind the scenes. That's my impression anyway. So I think that the reason that I land on the solo queue playlist, and I don't think that you're wrong by any means, but I think that at the end of the day, that solo queue playlist would make people play this game more, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, sure. But I want both. Make the solo queue and make the 5-stack.
See, then my concern then is if I'm let's say I've been duoing with the same guy for the last 5 years in Siege, so now all of a sudden we can't duo anymore.
Mm-hmm. But what if I 4-stacked with the same 4 people?
I mean,
are you more
entitled
to your duo than I am to my 4-stack?
It's much less likely that you have a rigid 4-stack than
but you also hurt twice as many people.
No, that's not true. That's not true. You're assuming that there's twice as many people that have a 4-stack, solid 4-stack, not a 5-stack.
No, there's
solid 4-stack.
There's just two stacks in a 4-stack.
I know, but how many people out there have a consistent duo, and how many people out there have a consistent 4-stack?
I have no idea, and I'm not going to pretend like we know that.
Well, I mean, just by the law of probability, I have to have one friend in order to have a duo. I have to have 3 friends to have a 4-stack.
Yes, but if you have a 4-stack, then who gets to go?
I mean, again, this isn't something that doesn't exist elsewhere. Like this is the any game that has a solo queue playlist like Dota has this problem. And if you have a 4-stack, you basically, I think in Dota you have to queue unranked is what it comes down to.
Wait, so you can't? So in Dota you can only queue if you're 3, 2, or 5.
No, there's a solo. Yeah, there's a solo queue, and then there's 2, 3, and 5. I believe is how it works in Dota, and then there's unranked.
Okay, so you still have a 5-stack queue.
It's not well, they might in that game. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Okay,
but I don't. To my knowledge, there's not an
if we have to assume that it is so unfair for a solo to play against a 5-stack that could have gotten a 4-stack as his teammate, then I will say that it is just as unfair for a 2-stack to end up queuing against the 5-stack, even if it's a 2-stack and a 3-stack. I'm not buying that evens out the odds. It's going to be pure speculation, but if I'm queued with one person I know and there's 3 other, we have no more communication or level of teamwork than if we were, let's say, a 4-stack and a solo or 5 solos. At least once you get to the higher elo, like
I don't
at that
disagree.
point it has no impact.
I think that what you do have though is what I mentioned earlier, in that if you're playing with someone, you're much less likely to all F4 after you get spawn peaked in the first round and then never to return.
Yes, but if sanctions were higher, you would also be much less likely to them. And I think stuff like rank decay would probably be a good thing. If you don't play for a week, drop down a rank, done. Then you can say, oh, well, not everyone has the time to play. Well, then you shouldn't be the highest rank. Right? Like, that makes sense. If you aren't staying up to date, it's not so much about how good you are, it's about how consistently you are that good. Right? Like that's the meaningful thing. Like just speed running to diamond, like I honestly don't think this season I got diamond in 3 days, right? 3 games. 3 days from the season went live. If I didn't play more for the rest of the season, there is no way in hell I should get the diamond. Like 3 days out of a season, that should drop.
Right.
The same with like if you, this is where we need that damn trust factor system. There needs to be higher sanctions. There needs to be an incentive to stay on main accounts. I don't know how. Like I thought so much about it and I cannot figure out what a good reason or like what a good incentive is to keep people on one account.
I've got it. If we had legit in-game challenges, like like legit ones.
Yeah,
That got wiped every single season.
but challenges, what like where you get something for it, or
Yeah, but it's got to be well designed. It's got to be good. So you know, get 100 grenade kills, you have a golden grenade.
sure.
It's not going to fix it completely.
No, but it will
but
help a ton. The only
yeah,
problem is that it's a great idea. As long as champ exist, it doesn't mean shit. That's the problem, because that's what people want. They want to show that, and they definitely want to show the little number. I think it's the biggest mistake Ubi has ever made in terms of ranked. Nothing has degraded the experience of playing ranked as much as that in higher elo. The length people will go to get points, stacking with the unranked players to get as much as they can, right? Having 4 people of champ skill just get 5 accounts so they can boost one player exceptionally high so they can get whatever number 10, 9, 8, or 1, whatever they want to get, right? Nothing has made ranked less enjoyable than that. People don't care about those accounts, so they will act way worse on them. The accounts will be sold whenever they get ranked because they can't use them anymore that season, or they'll wait until next season, right? So they can do it again. Until that is kind of dealt with, the challenges won't mean a lot because people will just stop buying accounts that have that challenges or those challenges completed. It'll just become another thing for people to boost and sell. So Ubi has to be 10 times more strict with that. Today, I saw a guy with, what was it? Invitational player charm. And that was not a guy who ever played at Invitational. And we found out it's a bought account. It's a bought account that has a player or 6 Invitational player charm. That should not be floating around on any board accounts, right? It's like buying a Medal of Honor. You're just kind of a freak if you do. Those things should be account bound and locked to people. And I think it's way too easy right now to do that. The same, like, some dude gets banned for cheating, a month later he appears on a new account with the same name. And as long as he isn't cheating, he's basically still gets to play again. Which is, it makes no sense. If you get perm banned, you shouldn't be able to just pop up again. Especially not if you queuing with the same people, you have the same name, right?
Yeah.
There should be some sort of more strict sanction with that.
Would you be willing? Would you be willing to take personal performance into account in order to combat smurfing?
Yes, if we can figure out what metric.
Okay.
So I'm not worried about smurfing. Because I don't think as many people do it as people think. I think a lot of them just go through those ranks because they have to. Right? So they're in. I don't know if this is true, and this is just an assumption, but I think a lot of the people that let's say a silver meets where they think they're smurfing, they aren't actually smurfing, they're just speed running to get to diamond so they can sell their account. Or play with their other stack or whatever it might be. And they just have to step on toes all the way up there because there's no other option for them, right? I don't know how many people on purpose, because they have to throw a lot of games. Like a new account will get to high elo very quick. If you're a good player,
if you're winning,
yeah. If you, well, I mean, you are. If you are a diamond player and you get a new account, you are winning a lot in the start. Especially if you do it mid-season. Like, you're basically placing plat 3. Right? Off a brand new account. And that's from solo queuing, if you had a bad run. If you had a good run, you're placing plat 1. Or at least, like, close to plat 1. And then from there, I mean, now you're basically queuing with champs. Right? Like, plat 3 can meet champs. That's another thing. It's way too easy to get in the high brackets. Like, way too easy. So
what's the problem with somebody having an alternate account then?
Well, if you have a lot of low-level accounts in the higher elo, you dilute the value of that elo. Right? Especially if you have numbers to it. So if you have a champ thing where everyone that is in, is it top 1,000 or is it, I think it's top 1,000, right? Gets a number.
Something like that.
So if you have, let's say you have 4 accounts and you have 4 in top 1,000, you're not supposed to, right? You're supposed to have 1 account that is there. And that should be the one that is the highest, because then the people below you, otherwise you could basically have as many accounts as you wanted, and you could have top 10 all to yourself if you wanted to.
Right.
Like, that's not the intent of a ranking system. A ranking should be individual based, not account based. But we can't do it individual based because all the accounts are not linked to one individual, right? On top of that, if we have a placement game thing, and we have placements every season, then if I have 5 accounts, then that's 40 extra games I have to basically destroy someone else's games.
Yeah.
And I'm forced to play against them because the system has no way of knowing if I'm still as good as I was a season before, or a season ago, or a season before that, right? So that's probably a bit shitty. What if the second account is there so I can play with people that I otherwise wouldn't be able to play with? I've had to use my second account this season, and I didn't last season. And that is purely because of the 700 MMR rollback. Or
Yeah,
700
that's a
MMR.
good point. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it. Day 1, we play, we get placed. I think most of us got placed like high plat 2, almost plat 1. Play a couple games. Day 2, we're almost diamond. Log on day 3. One of the people didn't play in the stack for the last, let's say, 3 games. But the rest of us get elo roll back from cheaters. So now we're, instead of being within 700 range, we're like 10 points away. So we're 4 people with a 5th that can't play because of the MMR log. We played all of our games together, except for 2 or 3, whatever it might be. But when I locked off at that evening, we knew that we could play again the day after, right? And we planned to do that, and we all log on, and now we can't because Elo rolled back. Mm-hmm. And this was even from people that were banned that we won against. So he lost some Elo, and we lost some Elo as well, but got some back as well from some we lost to after him. So when everything added up, he was like 10 or 15 Elo away from being able to play. Then you can say, well, then he should just play 1 extra game alone. That doesn't really make sense or sound fair, because he didn't play a single game alone and was never like a detriment to the team or anything, right? Like, if anything, he was actually one of the better performers. But all of a sudden, he couldn't play with us. So he jumps on a second account so he can at least play. But now he's on an unranked account for another 10 games. That account gets ranked. Now we're too high, still, right, for the other one. But his second account is high enough that could play. But we want to be able to play with his main account, of course. So we jump on our second accounts, win those games, and now we're all in Elo again where we can play together. But because we played on separate ones, or separate combinations of stacks on the second accounts, if this happens again, they're all outside of Elo range as well. Some of them were way higher, some of them were way lower because of Elo rollback. I'm a massive fan of nullifying the gain that cheaters get by just destroying the game and saying 0 Elo to anyone. So no one is losing or gaining. But I don't see how I should ever be able to go from being able to queue with my friends on 5-stack on one day and not be able to the very next day without no input from our side.
We were talking about this on Twitter. We were talking about this on Twitter, and I think we ended up at a pretty good place. And I think you just told the horror story of MMR lock, and I think that's one side of it. I think that from somebody who plays in the gold and low plat ranks, the MMR lock has been a real game changer in a positive way for me. Before this MMR lock took place, what you would see from these boosters is you would see the boosters would get accounts down to copper, mm-hmm. and then they would, the booster sites would get hired by somebody who has an account maybe in like silver or gold, and those boosters would just alternate on different copper accounts to keep the MMR down, and then boost that person up to diamond. And eventually, where those people would end up was somewhere around like the gold, silver, maybe even low plat ranks, depending on how the party broke down. So at that point, the high MMRs. Well, when you're high MMR, you're already up there. So I guess it's kind of null and void at that time. But I can't tell you before this MMR lock took place how many times in gold you would see yourself at the end of a game. You would look and the top fragger was legitimately like a copper or bronze, and boosting up a bunch of golds or plats or something like that. So it really helped that. Okay. What we talked about on Twitter was let me throw another idea, and then we'll throw this one. What if the MMR lock was scaled? Because here's the problem: 1,000 or 700 MMR when you are in silver is like what 3 or 4 ranks, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
I think so.
when you're in plat 1, 700 MMR isn't that much. You know what I mean? Or plat 2 to diamond is
when you're in champ, it doesn't matter if you're 5,000 or 15,000.
Well, yeah, exactly. Same. Like when you get into those higher elos, 700 MMR is not a big enough margin for error to be able to party with people. Like there's no world in which a plat 3 shouldn't be able to queue with a diamond. Like that just once you're plat 3, in my opinion, you should be able to queue with a diamond. Plat 2 should be able to queue with a champ. Absolutely. I mean, I don't see why not. But when 700 MMR down at silver is a ton. When you look at the actual rank breakdown, okay. So what if it was scaled so that okay. So if you're maybe copper through silver, the MMR lock is 700. Gold through plat 2, the MMR lock is 1,000, and then plat 2 through champ, the MMR lock is 1,500, something like that. I don't know. Could that be something that could work out?
I mean, you could just say that you can only queue with 1 rank above and below, or whatever, 2 ranks above and below.
True, you do it by ranks, not MMR.
Yes, I think that is a way smarter thing, and it also gives some accountability to actually make the ranks matter in terms of how they're spread out. Because we have 23 now, and we 100% couldn't tell within like a decent precision by watching a gameplay what rank people would be. Because if people could, there wouldn't be so damn many YouTube channels calling champ gameplay in plat 3, right?
Right.
If people could actually tell, that wouldn't work. I will say that while you might see less, so we like the 1,000 MMR lock was actually pretty decent, because that meant that we could. Last season there was never a time where I couldn't play with someone, unless we had a friend who came back and didn't play the previous season, and after placements they didn't have their 3,500 start or whatever it was. There'd be like 1 or 2 games they had to solo queue to get within range after playing their placements. But that was manageable. But 700 is very, very low at high elo. While you don't see Copper's top fracking anymore, I bet you see more cheaters. Well, at least you might not notice, but I will promise you do. Because boosting hasn't gone down. So the people that want to get higher rank are still getting higher rank. Now they're just paying for for boosters to cheat them, or cheaters to boost them instead. Account selling is, I don't know if it's through the roof, but you can try and look up how many level 100 and below accounts or enchantment for sale. There's too much of that stuff going on. When you kill something like copper boosting, you're just gonna have some, like, they're not gonna close down their business, right? Like they're still gonna make their money. So if what you were seeing was an actual business doing this, they're just doing it with cheating now. I will almost guarantee that. You might not see them, but then we do.
Well, but yes, you do at the higher ranks. That's what I was gonna say, because in order for them to be partied up, all the ranks. So if they're gonna boost somebody to diamond,
well, they just do it on
ranks. What's that?
They just do it on ranked.
On unranked accounts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay.
They just tank unranked accounts down, to absolutely no elo, and then they play their games, and then they wait to the next season and they do it again. Or they play unranked, or they just cheat in high elo to get people. Like, we play against a guy who is
Right.
very, very high on the leaderboard, like very high. And it was embarrassing. It was a very, very high elo player this season, and not a single time were they ever like even visible on the scoreboard. There is no doubt, like that player had only queued with low level accounts, and half of them have been banned for cheating, right? Like, they can't really hide it because they don't stand out as being like a top tier player in the world. But they have the ranking that shows that they should literally be on the level of, you know, a top tier player. So the abuse might not be happening as much there. Now it's just happening with the entire top ranking instead. And I don't know if that's much better. And it's not out of, well, I don't want to deal with it, so it's better that other people do at all. It's that the goal that some people have of improving and getting further, they're sitting there thinking, I would rather not get up there, because once I improve, I just start meeting that. Hopefully, it should always be a, if you improve, you're happy that you did. And like, if I was a happy gold 1 right now, I would do everything I could to just coast and stay around gold 1 and low plat, because the game gets so much less fun when you get higher. Unless, like, we are cheering when we meet a team where everyone is level 200. Like, oh, this is almost guaranteed a legit game. And like, we might get smacked, but at least it was a legit game. If we see like a 5-stack and they're all level 90, except for one guy, and that one guy is like high champ, right? The other ones all have like a 1.8 KD and have only played 4 games this season. We're like, oh, that's not an enjoyable run. I think it would be better to scale for, like in CS, you can be a global elite and you can queue with 4 silvers, and it works.
Does it do anything to the matchmaking?
Yeah, queues you against only global elites.
Okay. We talked about that, and I like that. If you are in a 5-stack, you should be able to queue with whoever you want, and it just goes off the highest rank. Why not? Why not?
Well, so if we're thinking about the same Twitter thread, Mello responded, one of the Ubi guys, with his view, and this is his personal view, so it's not like a Ubi statement or anything at all. But he said that what then happens is that the global elite and silver stack will lose, which they will, sure, and the global elite will then D-rank, and then the silvers and the global elite will be in, let's say, gold or whatever the equivalent is, and then they will just be carried by the guy there. I don't buy that, because that isn't what happens in CS. The global is never going to want to play with the 4 silvers for long enough for him to D-rank so far down.
I agree.
Especially not in Siege, where there's a charm at the end of the, right? CS also has rank decay. If you don't play for a long enough time, you have to do placements again.
I understand his concern.
I also do, but I don't believe it happens in practice.
I don't think it does either. And the other thing too is, okay, let's say that let's transition this over to Siege talk. A diamond and 4 silvers.
Mm-hmm.
They start losing. So the diamond ends up in gold. Well, okay, so now is the diamond still queuing with the silvers? If it is, then they're still like, they're eventually, it's going to come into where they're leveling out, right? Or they're not leveling out, but they're getting to the rank where they can actually win. And
yes, and also you can't hard carry in CS or in Siege the same way as you can in CS.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't just, a diamond can't just walk in and consistently 1v5 a stack of golds.
Right.
It's just not possible. But in CS, there is no way that a global,
oh my god,
like, dude, a global will
Valorant. I put this tweet out the other day. It was a joke, but it's actually true. In Valorant, a gold match in Valorant is just a question of who has the better Jet Smurf. That's the question. Because one good Jet or Reyna in Valorant will drop legit 30 kills and win the
Yeah.
game. It's just and you know that they're on a Smurf, like you know it. But I agree. Like I understand his concern, but let's say according to his theory, the diamond ends up in gold.
Mhm.
And then his concern was that that diamond is now in gold and is going to just smash and ruin the game for the golds that he's playing against. Okay, well then he's going to win, get back up to diamond. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you should assume that at some point they're going to meet an equilibrium, right? They're going to equalize, and
what's the difference between that and unrated ranked matches? Well, because you could make that same case that every season it happens with unranked matches.
well, so I think in unranked that doesn't matter, because in unranked nothing changes hands. That's the one thing we have to be careful with. The second we call it ranked, and there's a currency change of ELO where I take something from you more than a win or a loss.
Okay, but let's say I finished last season at champ.
Oh, so you mean your placement matches?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant unranked.
I'm sorry, I said unrated.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean placement. Yeah, isn't that what happens in placement matches anyway? I finished last season at champ. I'm going to start out with what's the maximum MR you can start out with? 2,500 or something, or is that
35?
medium?
Right?
Is it 35? Okay, and then let's say that I finish, right at the tip top of where that could be, or really close to it. Well, now you're running into that same thing there in your placement matches, right? I mean, I don't know. Like,
well,
I understand his concern, but I don't think that should stop. I don't think that should stop that policy from being applied.
I just don't buy it, not at all. Because right now, the other option is that, let's say player A, who is a champ player in Siege, wants to play with his 4 friends, and they're silver. He's just gonna jump on another account,
right?
And to be able to full or continuously play with his 4 silver friends, because he's gonna carry them into gold within like a handful of matches, he can either only play with them on his Smurf account, or he's gonna have to purposefully throw games on that account to get it down in elo. So he's not only is he costing another team that he has to be on at some point the elo of him just purposefully throwing, right? Just purposefully just being AFK and doing nothing, or just running and dying and losing and losing and losing to get low enough that he can play with his friends again, or he's only going to play with them, which makes it so much worse, because now instead of you seeing that you're against, like, this was the good thing in CS. If I met a stack of, let's say, silvers and a champ, I knew who the champ was. Now, what happens in Siege is that you just see 5 silvers, but one of them is dropping 15 kills and wallbanging everyone through the wall, and he's so much better. And you're a silver, and you sit there and think, this doesn't add up. This doesn't, make sense. If it just said champ outside of that guy's name and he was level 300, you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's, a good player queuing with his friends, and that's why we're getting slammed. That hurts your pride a lot less than getting the same treatment from a guy in your rank. Because now you don't know, either he's cheating, which is very likely, or he's smurfing, right?
Yeah.
At least the other one, what, like, you start being able to see, okay, that's what that skill looks like. That's how far I have to go to get there. And it's not going to be fun. You're going to get your ass handed to you. But when you then, like, that one round where you do kill him, you're going to feel so good, right? You're going to be like, yeah, right. I did it. So I think there's way more positive to that. Plus, I don't know how often it would actually happen in ranked that people want to do it. And if you queue for the higher elo, where, like, it's only ever going to be the opposite team that actually, like it's your team that takes the hit.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Five stack. If you're in a 5 stack, you should be able to queue with whoever you want. The MMR is based off the highest person in the 5 stack. 100%. I'm down. The reason that you can't weight it, in my opinion, like the reason you can't say, okay, if a 5 stack can be a diamond and 4 silvers, they can play together, and if and they're gonna play, and they're just going to we're gonna weight the MMR so that if they win and they win against diamonds, then they'll get a ton of MMR, and if the diamonds beat them, then they won't lose very much.
They can do that.
Yeah, that'll be manipulated like really, really easily. Like the people will just use that to manipulate the system. I want to throw a couple more specific changes at you, and then obviously if you have any more, throw them out as well. One thing I would like to see them institute into ranked, like you say, like not being able to see the MMR and stuff like that. I understand where you're coming from. I kind of like seeing it, in all honesty.
But you worry about it.
That's a different argument. I think that when you are deranking, so let's say that you're plat 3 and you lose a match, you should go to 0, the bottom MMR of plat 3, and then have to lose 1 more in order to actually derank. I really like the way that Valorant does that. I know that the problem is for all the obsessive compulsive people out there, you're pulling some MMR out of thin air there, because okay, let's say that the cutoff for plat 3, I'm throwing numbers out here. Let's say the cutoff for plat 3 is 3,000. You lose a match and you go to 3,001 MMR. That would mean that you have to lose 2 more matches in order to go down to gold. You follow what I'm saying there? So in those 2 matches that you lost, you lost 1 MMR the first one to get down to 30,000, and then the next one you would lose your normal amount. It would be normal. So I go back to what I said about player retention and creating a system that feels fun to play. I think people enjoy ranking up. They do. Like,
100%.
They enjoy ranking up. They don't enjoy ranking down. So give them a little nudge there. Because what that system does is it makes it a little bit harder for you to derank than it is for you to rank up. Because
what that system does is it's a casino system that makes you more likely to play one more round because you hate losing so much. And I'm fine with it. Add it. I have no issue with that at all. If you do it, rework the entire ELO, because you cannot have a numbered ELO system where you pull ELO out of a hat.
Right. I get you. Yeah.
One or the other. Because
I think
if you're gonna do it that way, you have to go all in on it.
I think the way that it works in Valorant is that each rank, it's not a number. It's just that each rank has 100 points or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, when you hit plat 3, in order to hit plat 2, you got to gain 100 more points.
Yeah.
And then that might be the direction they'd have to go or something.
Why do you want to see the number between the ranks instead of just ranking up? What is it like? We didn't have it to start with.
I know.
Many games don't have it, and they also went in and removed the ability for you to see the enemy's rank, the enemy's KD, the enemy's win-loss ratio. Why would they remove you being able to see it on other players? We clearly can't handle seeing it in like when other people have it, right? But we want it for ourselves. How much does it affect?
Because, man, it feels so freaking good. It feels so good to win a match and see that ticker go up, man.
But how many angry tweets are influenced by, oh my god, I only got 20 ELO
I know.
Like, pipe down and be happy about the fact that you won the match, right?
I know.
I hate this.
I can't really argue it. I can't. But the only thing I can say is that
justify that. Oh, I should have gotten 60. What do you know about how many points you should have gotten? You won.
Right.
That's the only thing that matters, right?
Well, that actually has to do with the other change that I want to mention. I don't know the proper wording for this. I think that maybe the way that it should be worded, I would increase volatility in ranked, meaning that I would, how the more ranked matches you play, the less MMR fluctuation you have. Yes. I would slow that pace down a little bit, so that it takes longer to get to the point where you're only gaining 25 MMR a game.
That'll just spread ranks out more, though.
Yeah. Okay, that works. That's fine. But I do think there's a portion of the player base out there, again, and maybe this comes back to smurfing and playing less, but they're like, okay, well, I've played so much this season, I'm only gaining 25 MMR per game. I'm gonna hop on my alt account where I have a chance to still level up and down. Or
if you remove the ability to see the ELO, you would never have. No one ever mentioned this in year one.
Yeah, but
they were plat 1, and they were like, I hope one day I'm good enough to be diamond. It was about actually improving.
You would be like, well, I must not be earning MMR. People would start using their imagination, because like, oh man, I've been in plat 1 forever. I must not be gaining any MMR anymore. You know what I mean? Like that they would just start
But then
speculating basically.
hopefully we could have some sane people that could call it out and say, you know what, it's just because you're not winning enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, honestly, if you're on a win streak and you're gaining 100 MMR and you're gaining 25 MMR, you know what I mean? Like it just feels like, man, if I would have been on my alt and we would have won these 5 games in a row, I'd be diamond
Yeah,
right now or something.
but 25 MMR is a hell of a lot, man. We stop at 5,000. That's when it stops mattering. 25
Well,
is a lot. It's 4 games for 100, man. Like it, you don't have to play a lot of games to all of a sudden be 1,000 points over the ranking, even at 25.
well, 1,000 points.
It's 40 games of win,
that would
right?
be what, 40 games, right?
Yeah.
40 wins.
Yeah, and then you're
40
1,000
wins.
points outside of where the top ranking is.
Well, I mean, but in order to win 40 games, realistically, I mean, you're probably playing at least 70 games, right?
Sure, but this is the very worst case scenario. This just means that, like, let's say you have a 60% win rate. You will indefinitely just keep climbing forever. What's the point?
Well, I think the point is that
You
to
want to
me, the reason that I say that I would look at that is because I think that there's a point in the season where people just kind of feel like blah. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Maybe the alternative to this would be halfway through the season it resets.
No, fuck that. Give them more renown or something. Don't start giving people more elo. Then you have to lose more as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
I'm
people
taking
don't
that
want
into
that.
account.
People don't want that. People don't want to be losing 300 elo in 2 games. And dropping like 2 ranks because they lost 2 games, right? Sure, then we spread out and we say, okay, well, we increase the spacing between the ranks. Or you could just keep the elo smaller and we have the same thing.
Yeah,
seeing the big number.
I realize what we're talking about here is literally just you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. That's like pretty much.
Well, you want to see the elo change a lot, right? You want to feel like you're getting a lot out of it.
Exactly. You want to feel like it means something.
But
like I didn't just grind a whole evening, and at the end of the day, I gained 25 MMR.
Sure, but should you be able to go from gold 1 to plat 2 in one evening?
Depends on how many games you play and how many games
I
you
think
win.
it's ridiculous that you can do that in one evening. There is no way in hell that you should be able to go from gold to plat 2 in a day. There is no matter how well you played, you should not be able to, within the first week of a season launching, be diamond.
Okay.
There's just no way.
Okay, so we're talking about 2 different things. What you're talking about there is separating the ranks more.
Nope. If you want to get more elo per game, that's what's going to happen.
No, I'm not saying I want more elo per game. I want it to decay faster or decay slower. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
So at game 50 in the season, my rank would still be a little bit more volatile than what it is now. You know what I'm saying?
But how much are you? Let me compare mine now. I have 136 matches on my main account this season, right? Last win I got 53 points.
Okay.
After 136 games. I had one that was 37, one that was 42, minus 25, minus 71, plus 23, plus 59. That's a lot of elo after 130 games. Yeah. Especially when the jump is so small. And this is like in diamond, right? So I could, if we got a lucky win streak, let's say we win like 10 games in a row, I'm champ in one sitting. That should not be possible.
Well, I don't.
And that's at the current level.
I don't think anything. Change. I'm not suggesting that anything really changed in your first like 25 games, 30 games, 40 games, 50 games. Maybe when we start getting to 50, you'd start seeing the effect of it a little bit. And I'm not talking like monumental changes either.
But that's
I'm
kind
just
of how
trying.
it is
Do you
now. I
not
mean,
you know like you don't remember before like the base minimum of 25 MMR was installed? Like how many people at the end of the season would be like, dude, I'm gaining 9 MMR per match. Like this is pointless.
yes,
Um,
but I also have not seen as many people actually back that up with a screenshot. I heard so many people say that, oh, I'm losing way more points than I gain. First off, you should lose more points than you gain. That's that's how ranking systems should work. Or you should always win and lose the same, no matter what, right? Like, so either it's always a +1 -1 for a victory, or it's always a little bit more of a loss than you win in the same. Because one thing would push you up the ranking and the other one should move you down one slot. So the negative should be a little bit more than the positive for a loss. The people that got 9 elo are the people who played like 500 games. If you're playing 500 games, you are probably so extremely well placed in the ranking that you are that there is no point that your elo should be volatile. Basically, you playing 500 or 600 games should mean nothing. You're just playing
right.
for the sake of playing. And I did that. I played last season 886 games on my main account. And I went from like 4,500 to 4,800 and just within that bracket of 300 elo, just forth and back after 200 games, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be because I didn't improve, but I didn't get worse either. So if it was volatile, I would just have gone down to plat and up to champ. It would just have been a wider swing instead, right? Because even with the elo that it was now after those 800 games, it was still moving up and down.
Yeah. Do you think though that, and this is what I guess what it comes down to for me is that I'm saying that if somebody is at the end of the season still seeing their ranks actually fluctuate, do you think they're more likely to keep playing than they are if they feel that it's stagnant?
No. No.
Well,
I
I think you
I
can
know
make the
people.
argument either way.
I
Because
know people that
what
have
if their rate
played.
is going down? If their rank is going down, maybe that discourages them
Sure,
because that's going to come with this.
but
But if they see it, I played 10 games a day and I went between,
this
gold
is
2 and plat 3.
this is a self-adjusting thing, though. So ranking systems are just so great because if they're done based over the population, then let's say that some do leave because they don't like it. That means that some will automatically rise in rank. So if some people do leave, we get the rank pool a little bit smaller. It'll spread out again and fill, and like some people are gonna climb again. I ranking is not about everyone getting to the top because there's not enough space there. So we have to stop assuming that we need to like give carrots to everyone and everyone should just be increasing in rank through the whole season. You can't do that. There is no way that Copper Jeff should, through playing a whole season but not improving, be in gold. He's
Right.
not good enough.
I don't
And
disagree. I don't disagree.
no, but we like it. Ranking system has to have a little bit of we don't really care about your feelings. We care about it being a fair game, right? And a good match. What you want in exchange for that is not really the ranking system's business. It should just place you. It's cool that we get a charm. Like honestly, that's probably more than what you need, right? I don't even. Do you get anything in CS? I don't know if maybe you get like a little Steam thing or something. I don't know. Also, doesn't matter. The good thing in CS was that if I queued ranked, my games would be fun because I played against people of similar skill. That was why I wanted to play. I didn't play because I wanted to get a fucking sticker or something in return. It was about the game being good, the matches being good. If that can't carry itself, I don't want to be baited into it by some FIFA bullshit of rested bonuses and extra renown and inflated elo to make me feel better about not ranking up. everything that you have to give us candy for like pulling me in means that there's something else that wasn't good enough.
Okay, so here's the question, the counter argument to that though. Why don't you just play unranked?
Because I want to compete.
So if people played unranked with the same seriousness that they played ranked, you would play unranked and be happy to do it.
Sure, but the problem is that that will never work, because the second that happens, it becomes ranked.
Right. Well, yeah. It's a hypothetical question, obviously. I mean, I get that.
But it's important, because it, like, that question, the second that those things become true, then it follows the ranked. Like,
well, the only difference though between unranked and ranked is that you don't see your MMR.
Not really, because I can go in and look at it on
a third party app. Yes, but
there's also no MMR cap at all. None.
True.
Everyone can queue with everyone, so absolutely no MMR cap. There is no like, if I beat the same team, they are not less likely to meet me again later if they just make a new stack, right? So if let's say we have whatever MMR in unranked, the search parameter width is much wider, right? To find games quicker. It's not like in ranked, where there is no way that I will ever see a gold in my ranked game. It's impossible, right? They can't queue up within that bracket. They can in unranked.
Right.
So a guy that is like 2,000 elo under me in unranked, like with his unranked MMR, not his ranked MMR, could still queue against me.
Yep.
So if we get the MMR caps within the same limits, in the same brackets, then I'll be playing against the same people, but the same stuff isn't on the line. So if there's nothing on the line, then people are not going to play the same way, and they're not going to put the same effort in, because it doesn't matter if you lose the unranked.
Right, and I think that what that comes down to is, like, for you, a ranked system just needs to be about finding balanced matches.
Yeah, but I mean, there
for
has
a
to be
large
value
portion of the player base, they want a ranked system where they can climb a ladder, I guess.
But they want that shit because we're being given it, right? It's something that is being sold to us. We have to stop assuming that this isn't something that's implemented because we're just very easy when it comes to like baiting into stuff like this. There are very smart people that spend time to figure out how you spend as much time as you can on stuff, right? Same with microtransactions and everything else. This is not something players came up with, they wanted. At all. This is something.
What are you referring to?
Like the way that ranking system work with giving rewards and all of that. Showing you the elo. All of that is to keep you there. And it creates so much worse stuff than it helps.
I definitely saw this coming. That's why I mentioned in the beginning that I do think that player retention should be a core component of the rank design.
100%. Why make a system then that encourages cheating as much as it does? Who are you retaining? Well, more people have stopped playing ranked on stream since Champ came than any other change. If this is actually retention, why is top elo so horrendous right now? It might have been the intention, but it's failed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the champ thing, I don't know. I mean, the champ thing.
People want a rematch in year one. When you met a 5-stack, you wanted to rematch. You wanted to try again. You never saw how much elo you lost. But you wanted to play that team again. You wanted to see if you could beat them on the next map. Now people want to dodge them because they lost. They don't want to play a certain map because it gets banned. We ban the operators as well. If we don't like that, we also queue dodge and cancel. 90% of what ranked is about right now has nothing to do with playing a good game. It is about seeing that number after winning. You want to keep that number there, right? Like after the win, because you want to see if you got 50 or 60. But it's drawing all the attention away from the one thing that actually matters is did you have a good game? Was it a good match?
I think the only really, the question that I would have is, if you remove the candy, And I don't think that if you went back to the way they did it before, I'm not saying I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you removed the ladder aspect of ranked, where you would see yourself rank up and stuff.
No.
My question would be how many people would still be playing this
No
game?
one would remove that.
Okay. Well,
You're
okay.
completely misunderstanding. You still see your rank ups. You just don't see how close you are.
Okay. No. Okay. So I don't. When you're saying that you shouldn't see your MMR and stuff after that game, I don't think that's something that I don't feel very strongly about. Like if it was up to me, I would keep it. I enjoy seeing it personally, but I don't think
Why do you get ranked
that's going to make or
then?
break. What's that?
Why do you get ranked anxiety then?
Because the pressure of how many people say get flanked is just a carried plat, get flanked is just a hard stuck plat, get flanked is just a gold. You know, that's the big part of it. You know,
so people are worried about that number and what other people think of the number.
But well, the number is one thing, but nobody ever refers to me as a hard stuck 2500 MMR. They refer to me as a hard stuck plat 3 or a plat 2 or whatever. So that's what I'm saying. Like removing the number, like I can go either way on that. My personal preference is that I continue to see that number. But if they did what you suggest, I'm fine with that too. Like I don't think that's going to make or break ranked. But I do think it's important that the ranking system have some sort of a ladder. But it sounds like we're on the same page there.
Well, the ranking system will always have a ladder.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no ranking.
That you can see, that the player sees.
Yeah. You'd always see your rank icon. No one has ever like that. That has never. There's no point in having a rank if you don't know what your rank is.
But that's more. That ranking system is doing more than just providing you with balanced matches at that point. It's providing you with balanced matches and showing you your progression through a system.
Sure. But you also have to know like what you're up against, right? So you can compare and so you know, because otherwise, like, how are you gonna make it so you can queue with people if you don't know what level you're within? Like you need to know what you're playing against.
Right.
So the ranking isn't just for you to sit and like stroke your own ego over the fact that you're gold or plat or diamond. It's that you know that the people you're gonna be facing are that level. Right? Like that's a much healthier way to look at it. Instead of being so proud of your rank, you can look at, okay, these are the people that I play against in this elo. But everyone is looking at it like, ooh, I'm diamond, I'm 4600, I'm 4700, 4800, whatever it might be. Let's not pretend like whether you're 4400 or you're 4900 that there's a massive difference in how good you are. There just isn't. Right. It depends on if you had one good day playing ranked. Right? But people are willing to do so much for those 400 or 500 points. They're willing to queue with unranked players, and they know exactly how long they have to do this. They know exactly how much they have to boost. It is so easy to do the math because we can see exactly how many points we get per match, right? I don't know how they do it in Valorant. Do you see the actual like exact points you get per match?
You do, but again, it's not. There's two MMRs there. You see,
they have a hidden one, right?
Yeah, they have a hidden one. You don't see that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's how it should be. That's the same that I think Overwatch does the match rating and skill rating.
Yeah.
Right. And Siege basically have your skill and your matchmaking rating, and those are separate as well, right? And then you have your certainty level. But I don't think that. First off, champ should not exist. You just keep it diamond and then add lower brackets things. The only reason you add champ is so the people that weren't diamond have something else to go for. But then people will never get happy. So instead of just having champ, we also need to have champ that are numbered, right? And we just end up stretching out the top. But if you're 20,000 elo in champ, you're still going to be playing against the diamond. The skill gap there in terms of elo is more than the entirety of Siege's elo.
Yeah.
Like think about it. We could, I think Esport made it to 10,000 last season, right? So 10,000, he is further away from the start of champ than champ is from the lowest rank in the game.
Yeah.
If that is possible, the system is broken.
Well, but can you really design a system around those outliers like that?
Yeah. You cannot show the elo, and then you're just champ. Once you reach the highest rank, or you could be number 1.
I mean, but
don't
let's
need the
not
numbers next
pretend
to it.
let's not pretend that there weren't a lot of people asking for a global rank and
Sure,
that
but
something
wait,
after
wait.
diamond.
You could still have that, right? You could still have a top 500. You don't need to show the elo.
You would just show the number.
Completely separate.
You would just show the number.
Yeah.
Of where you're at on the ladder.
There's no point in showing the elo. It doesn't add anything. Knowing the number you have is fine. If you want to have a top 500, I'm all for that. That's cool. No problem. Then just make it diamond and then make it top 500.
I mean, people are still gonna. It's not like getting rid of the MMR is gonna fix smurfing and cheating.
Nope.
People are still gonna cheat to try to hit
sure.
rank number 9 instead of number 10 on the champ leaderboard.
Sure. You're gonna have people right now that so cheating did get worse and higher elo. It just did.
Yeah, I attribute a lot of that to the MMR lock, though. I do.
We'll agree to disagree. It was bad before that, and it's really bad now. It's really bad. And it's a lot of low level accounts, and it's not based on MMR. The people that are doing this could easily have done it before. And we can see the accounts that are getting boosted were doing this before that as well. So I don't believe that's the main thing. I think cheating just became easier in general in gaming. Like there were some breakthroughs there. But people do cheat a lot to do this. Like if you go in and check like the top 100 on the champs, there's a lot of them that are getting removed day by day, right? Which is a little shitty. So they want to do that, especially because there's value in it. You can sell those accounts, which is of course TOS as hell, and you will hopefully get banned if you do. You will have people that, like, if we will ever sit and complain about prices of alpha packs and how it can be predatory and it makes young people do that, what do you think ELO does? For anyone that can ever have honestly, anything bad to say about like in-game monetization, at least that is just money. This is time.
I personally, frankly, I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like we've spent too much time on this for, in my opinion, how insignificant it would be either way. Now, clearly, you think it would be much more significant than I do, whether they removed it or kept it. For me, the reason I feel like it's insignificant is because I've never told anybody that I'm 3,300 MMR. I've told them that I'm Plat 3 or Plat 2.
Sure.
So I'm fine. If they want to remove it, that's fine. Okay. But I don't feel like it's a big deal.
No, but I think you'll be surprised how much more calm you'd be about losing a game if you didn't know. Because you just said you wanted it to be more volatile, so it clearly affects you way more than you think.
The reason my end game for that is to try to help the person who at the end of the season feels like they're stagnant in their rank. You know what I mean? Like I've been Plat 2 for the last 2.5 months, and no matter how much I win or lose, I don't seem to change. That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah, so I get that one, but why are we like? Why do we want to help them if they didn't improve? That's their job.
Well,
it's ranked.
I mean, but it could hurt them as well. Like you're not just helping; you could be hurting them. That's the thing with it. You know what I mean? Like all I'm saying is that the point they would eventually get to that point. If you played 900 games in a season, yes, you would still probably get to that point where you're only earning 25 MMR, but you would get there slower. That's all I'm saying.
No, but isn't it good? Like I think that's what we're talking about.
Yes, it is. It is.
You are assuming that the guy
it's good. It's good in the certainty aspect. Like you.
Isn't that the only thing that
rank
matters?
system, the way the rank system works is that after you played 500 games, you shouldn't be switching ranks every other game. You should be settled into a rank. It should have figured out where you belong at that point. And I get that sound logic, but does that stagnation cause people to hop onto alt accounts and to cause them to play the game less? That's my thinking.
Well, it can't. So if it causes them to play less, then they're not going to be playing on the alt accounts, and if they do so on the alt accounts, then a lot of that would be fixed if it took a lot longer to get to the certain ranks.
Yeah.
Right. Like if it actually took you, let's say, a month minimum to get to diamond, of just grinding, like getting to champ should be something that very, very few people could do, and it should take a damn long time.
So is that something that you would change, that you would make the ranks way more spread apart?
I think it's ridiculous that I can get to diamond in 3 days.
Okay.
At my skill level, at my age, in a game like this with this many players, there's no way in hell that I should be able to get to diamond in 3 days. Maybe if I grind my ass off for an entire season. Maybe. But it is ridiculous that I can get there in that short amount of time. There's no joy in it. Like, I'm just getting there.
What if you solo queued? Would it be about the same amount of time?
No, not while streaming. If it's
well, yeah, I mean, for me, because the reason I asked that was for me, I could play 1,000 matches and I wouldn't hit diamond.
Yeah, but what's the point there?
Well, what the problem that you're presenting, and I'm not saying I disagree with you, but what I am saying is that the problem you're presenting about it's too easy to hit diamond.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's too fast.
Too fast. Too fast to hit diamond.
Easy. Because people that are able to get the diamond should get the diamond.
Okay, if it's too fast to get the diamond, that problem only exists for like the top 1% of players. It's not too fast for me to get the diamond.
That problem exists for everyone. You get to your rank too fast.
Okay. I see what you're saying there.
Don't think about the diamond thing. You're talking about your rank. I'm talking about my rank. We can call it gold. If I should not be able to get to gold in 3 days.
Okay, so it should take longer for the ranking system to put you where you belong.
It should take me longer to get to my rank, yeah. And especially if that rank is high.
Well, it used to take a little bit longer whenever your rank got reset every season. That was not significant, but a little bit longer.
Did it? What did we reset at back then? I placed the same, man. Yeah, I got the same placement after.
It changed. No, it's a soft reset now. So it used to be.
Yeah, but it's
not night and day. Don't get me wrong, but
it might matter in lower elo and higher elo because you start at I think you start at 35 or something. Either way, like after 10 placement, if you had a good placement setting, you're basically plat 1 after placement. And then we're talking 10 more games and then you're done.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I've gone 8-2 before in my placements and been plat 3.
Yeah.
So, and then I finished the previous season at, I think plat 2, something like that.
That's also way too fast. You play placements and you're almost at your rank.
So I think in previous seasons without the soft reset, I probably would have been somewhere, maybe middle gold, probably only a couple ranks difference. In all honesty,
I have never in a rank reset in CS. I have never been able to get global within a couple of days. Not even close. I had to grind it up, and the good thing was that it felt like it was a grind. Like you had to actually go through those steps, and sure, you had to step on a few lower skilled players on the way there.
Yeah,
but you had to work for it. The same with I don't play Dota or League, but everyone that is talking about it says that there's no way you get the top ranking in League or Dota within a couple of days.
Yeah, and I guess you just mentioned the downside of what you're talking about, which would be that there would be more games against people that you don't belong playing against necessarily.
Yeah. But I don't think it would actually be more when we look at the broader spectrum,
right?
Because you'd probably be playing on your main.
Well, and if
more.
everybody's taking longer to level up, then maybe you're playing against the people who are eventually going to end up at the same rank as you
Exactly. Like that's pretty much
along
what's
the way.
happening on the first few days of the season, right? Is
Right.
that there's so few people that actually want to play that the ones you do meet are like the five stacks that know that they
Yeah.
aren't bothered.
Right.
They're like, we don't care what's on. We're like it's just pro five stacks and sweat stacks. And honestly, super early season is either the best time or the worst time to play. It depends a little bit on how quick the cheaters were to get ready. If the
Right.
cheaters didn't have anything ready for like launch, mwah, ranked is so sweaty and it's so good. But I think that's what I wish from ranked is that we stop worrying about if if Timmy is stuck in diamond or plat or gold. It doesn't matter. Timmy should want to play against the people in his rank and then improve and then slowly, day by day, month by month, maybe one day climb one rank. That should be something that felt like it was worth it and earned. I'll bet you a lot of people don't really see the difference where if they're plat 3, plat 2, or plat 1. It's too close to each other.
No. No. And I think there's a lot of there's a couple of different reasons why. One is what we mentioned earlier about the number of variables that can exist in any given ranked
Sure.
match. And then two is yeah, I mean, definitely a part of it is that it's very easy to go between those ranks,
Yep.
in one session, you know. So what's the difference really?
Yeah, you can.
What else you got as far as changes? Anything else you want to throw out as far as the rank changes?
Uh, well, yeah, if you combine the whole thing, I think the queue for highest elo have an actual 5 stack thing, right? So you can queue with whatever friends you want it, and it would normalize for highest elo.
Okay.
Hide elo. I would also this is the extreme one. I would hide all player names and all text chat across teams.
Dude, that's not crazy at all. Like,
No, but
why?
like people
What's
lose
the
their
benefit?
shit.
What's the benefit of
Um,
that?
there is
If they listen, if they did that, you wouldn't have to get rid of cancel.
yeah. Also, there's a beautiful thing where 75% of like, how was it? If 25% of your in-game chat is toxic across teams, then it'll start spiraling, and you will start seeing a decline in growth and an increase in toxicity. There's a company that does like these breakdowns and does the math and figure out this for games. And I can't remember if they helped Riot or Valve or whatever it was. But there's a game developer conference called "What Happens When You Let Toxicity Slide" or something along those lines, where they talk about this whole thing with teams being able to communicate to each other. And like, I hate the idea of having that wheel in games. I always thought it was bullshit. Just let me talk to the other team. Let's say GG and all that. But I also realized that like, how often does that happen? Like,
Right.
how often is it not just the angry 14-year-old going, "Oh, why are you there?" Like that doesn't have to ever go from one team to another. So it's not so much if like it might not bother you and it might not bother me, but what about the other guy on my team who wants to respond? Or maybe he gets bothered. Or maybe someone goes too far and throws a threat or self-harm
Right.
bullshit or something, right? And that happens way more than people think. Like there's a beautiful Twitter account called I think it's called Ban Locker, where you can see like battle line toxicity bans just live stream, just so everything that happens in game, and like every couple of minutes there's a new tweet from them, right?
Yeah. I love it.
So toxicity bans would go down if you couldn't talk across teams, and maybe patience would go up because a lot of the people that are a little bit too quick to type, right, um, might not lose it as much if there was nothing for them to talk to, right? They're just
Right.
sitting there cooking by themselves and being angry, and maybe they cool down. I don't think you should know who you're playing against before the match is over.
I agree.
I,
100%.
I think
There's
it's
not there's no good reason.
no, I think it's foolish, and I think So this is my big conspiracy thing with, and I think it's with all games. I think there are high ups someplace that have the math down on this, and it's the same with mobile games and all that other bullshit. Is you want to know who you're against. You want to be able to talk to them, especially so you can get some toxicity, because then you want to, stay there and keep molding at each other. You want to see exactly how many points are changing hands, so you want to come back tomorrow. Just remove that shit, man. Let us have it let us focus about the actual game. That's my dream for ranked. Unranked, casual, quick play. Keep the names in. That's fine. Cool. Ranked, have like the pro version where it's just player 1 to 5, player 1 to 5.
I agree. I would like
or
that.
operators. We've talked about that before as well. You could just have operator names or whatever it might be. I don't care. Especially now with 6 pick having to go away if we get the whole drone pick phase right. Just have the names fill in. It anything like that would make for a 10 times more enjoyable experience, at least for me, for all streamers actually.
Yep.
It would pretty much nullify the need for streamer mode. Would probably reduce toxicity. At least it would reduce perceived toxicity because people couldn't talk together across teams.
Right.
Then you can say, well, how are you gonna figure out, or how are you gonna say nice shot or make friends with the guy in the team? Yeah, honestly, you know what? That one friend you made like 15 years ago in that one game where you said nice shot, and he was the one person that said, "Oh, thank you, man," and then you just liked each other. You probably met at the gas station, right? Like, it's such a unicorn thing.
Right.
That'll be. Mwah. I love it.
I think at the end of the day, for me, I want to see a ranked system that rewards you rewards you is the wrong way. I want to see a ranked system that encourages you to play the game more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would look at a way of making a ranked system, maybe not this ranked system, but a ranked system, more accessible to a wider group of players that don't have a 5-stack.
Sure.
And I know that like Siege is at its best when it's played in a 5-stack. I get it. I honestly do.
We both want solo queue though. I 100% agree. But I think your true rank, like your real rank, should be the 5-stack rank. It's the strength of your team, not the strength of you. We think enough about ourselves in general when we play, and I think your team rank is what should be the one shown.
And I wonder, like, what does your 5-stack look like if you're always playing against 5-stacks?
I can tell you that so by the way, the idea of like having the 5-stack queue is not as easy as we think, because you wouldn't be able to just change your 5-stack all the time right. Or maybe you could, but then you have to still remove the matchmaking cap, and then it becomes very weird. So like my idea of the 5-stack is that you have, for example, a roster, and you can have like 10 players on that roster. And those 10 players can play, and you have to have played, let's say, 30% of the games to be part of the people that have the rank. This was how they did it with arena teams in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, right? That's really cool.
When if you had a 5v5 arena team, I think you could be 7 or 8 people in the roster. And for let's say we had 3,000 MMR. If you just joined today, you would only have 1,500 MMR. But if you played X amount of the games with us, your MMR would catch up to the team very quickly.
Right. I love that idea. I think it really illustrates our different mindsets in this, though, because I love that idea, and I think that would be amazing for hardcore Siege players. Everybody would love that. I'm trying to find a way that is that's going to encourage the average Siege player to play the game more, I guess you could say. Or
remove cheaters, remove bugs, and the average Siege player would play this game a ton. It's one of the best
mouse and
FPS
keyboard
games
on console.
Yeah.
I mean,
like I think if we try to build all of these like fancy, cool things on something that is like Siege is it's not a polished turd. It's a very good thing that has a bit of shit around it right now. Right?
Well,
Like there's a few things that needs cleaning up, and then the game's actually pretty fucking awesome. It's so good, man. But there's just few things that are making it hard for people that have X amount of hours a day to play after work. They don't want to deal with
yeah.
this shit. They don't want to deal with getting DDoS. They don't want to deal with mouse and keyboard. They don't want to deal with weird bugs. They don't want to come on YouTube and then the only videos they watch is angry Siege players complaining about ranked, right? They don't want to go on a stream and the only thing they can see is the streamer going, "Oh, I'm getting stream sniped. Oh, this guy is cheating," or "This guy's spin butting." Like it just doesn't make them want to play, right?
Right.
If that stuff gets improved and fixed, the people I know that quit Siege didn't quit Siege because Siege became bad. The game didn't like all of a sudden do a 180 and become bad, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Like they went to a new game because they got interested in a new game. That's pretty normal. That happens.
Yeah.
It feel like we don't want to feel like the weird too clingy X, right? That just wants people to come back, stay please. Like the product is good, man. And I think they need to be a bit faster, and they're not as good with communicating as they could be. They're just not.
Yeah. Well, I think the rank system and is part of that polishment that needs implemented. I think the number one thing that I would take away from this discussion, let's get a solo queue playlist. And I know that you want to do a 5-stack playlist as well. I think what you talked about there sounds really awesome. Like having a roster of 10 people that you could like have a roster with for the season. Like I love that. You know what that reminds me of?
You have
game
3
battles.
slots. Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of game battles, and I loved game battles, but I was a hardcore player. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's not get I think we can both agree. Let's get a freaking solo queue playlist and let's see what happens. I think there's a large portion of the player base out there that would jump in there, man, and see what happens and see what it felt like, see what it looked like. And people are going to complain absolutely about their teammates and stuff, but I would play more, 100%. I would play so much more.
If you make a solo queue, then you need to start balancing it after performance and level. Because I think you can afford to do that if you pick from a pool of just solo queued people. It would be a lot easier to match people with similar playtime and skill. So all the level 90 anime heroes basically gets to play against each other. So look at it. If you wanna play on a second account and you wanna smurf, fair enough. But you have an increased chance of meeting cheaters.
Yeah.
Take that risk, sure. Like you want to be on a second account, go ahead. But for the level 300, 400, 500 trying to solo queue, they will be way more risk-free in their solo queue and will mainly meet people that have spent a good amount of time or have very trusted accounts, right?
I think there's a lot of potential benefits like that you could see come out of it. So, all right, let's wrap it up there. You go with that?
Yeah.
All right. So, welcome to our TED Talk on how to fix ranked. It's obviously a very complicated system, and hopefully though they are looking at it, which they are. We know that, and hopefully what comes out is something better than what we currently have. That's all we can really hope for. So,
and full disclaimer, we're kind of idiots and we don't really know.
Absolutely. I know I am for sure. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you guys in the next one.